Ooh la la, it's the Special Access Podcast and we are back. You've been granted highest level clearance to the one-stop shop for news, reviews and stories of the weird, wild and wonderfully mysterious haunted planet on which we live. Join us as we investigate all of the fantastic phenomena, incredible claims, felonious fabrications and hilarious high strangeness of the planet Earth. Welcome to Special Access. Welcome back and thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the SAP. In this episode, we welcome back the guys from Sufon and we're going to be talking about a case from the 80s known as the Night of the Triangles. More on that in a second. But before we get to that, I just want to quickly thank all the listeners who are back for more. You guys are amazing and you're growing. Let me know what you think on Twitter at @D_Logan. And thank you to all the new listeners and followers. Please remember to follow, like, subscribe, comment, share, and most importantly, enjoy. You can find the audio wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, the video is on YouTube. So welcome back to Mike Monder and Emlyn Williams from Sufon, the Swansea UFO network. Thanks for joining us again, and I'm going to hand over to John to kick things off.
Hi guys, hi Mike, hi Emlyn. Welcome back.
Dave.
So we've got Mike and Emlyn from Sufon in Swansea, the Swansea UFO network, based in South Wales in the UK, for our monthly chat based on the historical cases in Wales. And tonight's chat is a doozy. We're going to be talking about one of the biggest UFO cases ever to happen in Wales, maybe even in the UK or even the world. And it's called the Night of the Triangles. I've really been looking forward to hearing more about this case, not least because I was also one of the witnesses, but because it's an amazing case and it's not that well known in the rest of the world. So we really want to highlight it. So welcome, guys, and let's have a chat about the Night of the Triangles. What can you tell us?
Oh, it's the biggest case you've never heard of.
I had never heard of it. If I'm honest, I had not heard of it before researching this.
Everybody's heard of Rendlesham and Berwyn and Broadhaven and a few others, but nobody's ever heard of. Well, we came up with the name Night of the Triangles just because a big incident needs a name, doesn't it? Because you've got like the Berwyn Mountain incident, you know, and because this was right across South Wales, mostly in the Swansea area, I hasten to add. Luckily for us, and to give it a name, it all happened in one night, and there were lots of triangles, so Night of the Triangles. But basically, it was a mass sighting in lots of different areas, quite often at the same time, which shows that there were many, many craft, not just the one. And some witnesses saw 3 triangles all at the same time. Some just saw one, and different shape, different sizes, different dimensions. So yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing incident.
So we've got a presentation you guys have put together, and anytime you want me to start that off, we can start that. Are you ready to have a go and to start discussing the case?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll add the presentation, and we can kick this off.
This is our logo, one of them.
Do we prefer to have a full screen, or do you want to see each other on the left-hand side, guys? Do we?
It's up to you.
Yeah.
See each other on the left-hand side.
Yeah, okay, no problem at all. So whenever you're ready then, Mike.
Okay, I go on to the first one.
Yeah.
And that's the one. Logan Jones.
Right, yeah. There's a bit of a story to this. The actual witness has passed away. He passed away in 2012. But his son, Phil Jones, son of Orllwyn Jones, brilliant Welsh name. We managed to track him down, which was a nightmare because his name's Jones. All we knew was that he was a Phil Jones working in the council. So anyway, I managed to track him down. I just sent an email, and it was him, luckily.
That was lucky.
And
wow.
He told us the story of his dad, who was a driving instructor, and the family lived in Long Oaks Avenue in the Uplands area of Swansea, which is just west of the city centre. And Orchling was just leaving the house at about 6:15 on the evening of the 19th of January 1983, which we called the Night of the Triangles. And he was just leaving the house on the way to pick up a client to give a driving lesson. And just as he got down the bottom of his steps, he heard a noise to his left, and he looked, and he saw a triangle coming over the roof of the house next door, or a couple of doors down, and it was making a sort of like a chug, chug, chug sound. And as he crossed the road, and it dipped at walking speed, and he thought he was going to crash into the house opposite on the other side of the road, but then it rose up again and went over the roof of the house opposite, and it was just missing it by a few inches.
Wow.
And it was about the size of a car. And on each corner of the triangle, there was a pipe or some sort of thing sticking down from each corner with a small white light on the end of it. And the amazing thing about it was that, apart from the thing itself was amazing, but even more amazing was that it was only about 18 inches thick. So as Phil told us himself about what his dad saw, he said if there was any sort of being or person inside it, they would have had to been lying down.
Or maybe it was a drone, that first one.
Could be, yeah. But again, it was at walking speed, and it was heading north to south. You can see that picture there. It's that the red teardrop shape there. That's the location. It was heading north to south, and it was just going over the houses, street to street. And he saw it. It went over the roof of the house opposite, and then he looked between the houses, and he just saw it heading off down away towards the south. And
was there any scanning? Did he see? Did he think it was scanning the ground or the area, or was there any lights coming from it?
No, the only lights he saw it was a black triangle, and the only lights he saw were these small white lights at the end of these appendages, one pointing down, one at each corner. And we actually, when we started filming the series of videos of meeting the witnesses, Night of the Triangles, for YouTube, I think this was actually the first film that we made.
Yeah, this is the first one.
Steve Drewson, myself, Mike, and Lawrence Lowe went out to meet the son, Phil Jones. And yeah, Steve Drewson, unfortunately, he can't be with us this evening, or there would have been three of us talking about it, which should have been, because Steve's done a lot of work on this, and he's actually, I don't know if he'll allow me to say, but he's actually started writing a book about it. So I think we've got a snippet of this video next, haven't we, Mike?
Yes, yeah.
Remember the time of this now. This was 6:15 on this night, okay? Because that time comes up again in a bit.
Okay.
This is his son, Phil Jones.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as I say, my father alighted the property. He was going on to a driving lesson. As he got down to his car here, he noticed his attention was drawn to the roofs of the two houses next door but one, from which he saw a large black craft. It was he described it as being about the size of a family saloon car, triangular in shape. It was blacker than the night sky. Yeah. And then on the three corners of this craft was a small pole, and then at the bottom of that pole was a very bright, small but very bright white light. The vehicle or the craft came between the two houses here. It then descended below the height of the house at a walking pace. It crossed the road and then ascended back up on several phases. It came up on 2 or 3 phases and just about managed to miss the roof of the house opposite. Which roof was it? Number 15. 15. So that's right, that one there next to the scaffolding. Yeah, yeah, oh. yeah. He said it was that close. He was waiting for the impact to occur. He really did think it was going to crash. Was there any sound? It made a sound. It was a very low type sound. Chugging, like a chugging sound. it was going at what he described as a slow walking pace, and was so narrow, or indeed so low, it had no height to it as such. He said, if any, although it was intelligently controlled, and certainly it was under control, if there was any entity, anything in there, it would have had to have been laying prostrate, and it would have certainly probably not a human being. It was that thin.
So you say it was about, what size was it?
About the size of a family saloon car.
The size of a family saloon car.
Regular family car.
When you say it was a triangle shape, what was it, like a equilateral triangle?
Yes, it was. Yeah. As I said, several people were reported as having seen these aircraft in the night sky on that particular night in question. But this is the closest that I'm aware of.
Yeah, this one I've heard that is the lowest.
Yeah.
That I've heard.
Yeah.
So you can imagine it coming over the roof there.
Sure.
So have a quick stand up again.
In this direction, as I say, it descended. It actually came down below the height of the roof. How long would it take? 5-6 seconds to cross the road at a walking pace.
Yeah.
And then, as I say, it then ascended again, just about cleared that roof, literally by an inch or two. And then my father, having run up here, between the gap in the two houses, he noticed it descending again and making its way down there.
Well, when it actually left, did it leave at velocity, or did it just disappear?
Well, my father lost sight of it between these houses. It didn't speed up. The speed was constant. It was a constant, what he described as a slow to medium walking pace. And that's how it ascended over that roof. He ran over here, saw between the two houses the gap there. He managed to watch it descend back down below the house level again and head off in that direction towards the Swansea Bay. And as I say, he said that as far as he was concerned, the speed was continually, it was the same speed.
I wonder if there's any sound coming from that thing.
Well, the only sound that he could hear was a very low, deep, and I'll do it for you. It was a sort of a choop, 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 choop.
You already answered that, and then Lawrence asked him the question, was there any sound? That's good. Should have edited it, Alex. Lawrence obviously wasn't listening. Anyway, that was our first video. It's really good that Phil said he could remember what his dad told him at the time. He was only a young lad himself, about 18 years old, I think he said he was.
It was very detailed, so he obviously did listen very well.
Yeah, and he said his dad maintained this story for years. He never added to it, never embellished it, that's why he remembered it so well. Which is,
I mean, before people start saying, and I called it a drone earlier, but obviously we're not talking about the sort of drones we see these days, with little propellers on that are going up. They didn't exist in 1983. I mean, that is a very strange case there straight away.
Unless it could have been the triangle pop piloted by really little dudes.
Yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, don't forget now, this night was a very quiet, cold, clear night. The stars were out. It was a January night, so it got dark early. And I think a lot of the witnesses were just having their tea, or I don't know if we've got Leanne Gaskins on here. We might skew it.
Yeah, she's one of the towards the end.
She was one of the first witnesses. The first reported on that night. I think hers was about 5:15. I think she was watching Blue Peter on the TV. She just come home from school. We're going to come up to that again in a minute, right? Who have we got
Let's
next?
go to the next one, Mike.
Oh, this is Milan and Byron.
Yeah, no, this is 6:15 as well. So this next one was happening at the exact same time as Auckland Jones had his side of the news we just heard about. 2 miles difference. Auckland was in the uplands. This is in Gosainen, which is about 5 miles to the northwest. Okay. And basically the story is there was these 3 guys. There were 2 brothers, Milan and Byron Baliak. and Roger Williams. They were standing outside Gorsinen Workingmen's Club Institute. Workingmen's Club, yeah, Gorsinen Workingmen's Club in
Right.
Brighton Road in Gorsinen. They were waiting for the club to play. They were waiting for the club to open up, or they were going in to play snooker or pool or something. So they were just standing there, and they saw a huge triangle, the size, I think Milan called it, the size of a jumbo jet, heading down Brighton Road. Brighton Road runs west to east, and it was this huge triangle was heading west to east down the road, opposite, above a row of houses, and it was literally just above the houses. Okay, no sound at all, and I think he said there were lights, blue lights around the edge of it, with white lights underneath. But have we got the video here? He's going to describe what he saw now.
Yeah, we got the video. Do you want me to play the video?
Yeah, I'll just say that they saw this big one, and then followed by, after that had gone, they saw another 2 triangles, big, but smaller than the first one. And these were moving up and down the road, passing each other a couple of times. Okay, let's see the video. That's Milan, the guy.
That night, it was 6:15, we were standing here, and one of our mates, so Roger Williams, just looked across the road here, and he screamed out, what's that? And as we looked across here, there was the house there. There was a row of white, bluey lights, very small. And as it came over the top of the house, the whole thing tilted. In between these houses here, we could see a triangle shape, a huge triangle shape. But the only lights we could see then was the shape of the triangle, one at the front and one each side of the other side of the triangle with a red light, not in the centre, towards the front. This thing was floating in this direction, very slow. You could walk past it, and we immediately ran over to this side of the road here, and we were actually under it. And where we were astonished, it was just moving so slow, and went in that direction. When one of the boys, when they went out the sight completely, we lost it for a while, so they went out the sight. And when my brother and his mate went in, we phoned Swansea Sound. But when they went in there was 2 smaller triangles in this street here, going up and down, just past each other, like this, but much smaller.
While you were inside,
I was here. These 2 went into Swansea to phone, and I was still out here. I stayed here, and out of nowhere, this street here, there were 2 smaller triangles up and down each other like that, so they completely went out of sight. No sound whatsoever. But this thing here was huge. These were smaller. They got really big, wasn't it? You know, right in front of us here. Yeah.
So initially, then the sighting was opposite the club.
Yeah, right here.
And what sort of height of it?
What'd you say? About another length on top of that house there?
It's awkward to say. I just remember the size of it. So
yeah.
From here, I reckon one corner would be half the height of this again. Yeah. And going to the point of that one.
Yeah.
And then going over to sort of centre.
So you say you first came down from the north one?
That's what I saw. I didn't see any there. So it was a huge triangle from house to house, and in between to the back.
Yeah.
So it was that size.
And about 40, 50 foot up there?
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah. But I couldn't see anything in between it, apart from the light. And that was it. I looked, but I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see anything in between it. But it was definitely totally different.
So you went in then to my brother went in and Roger went in, right? And as he went in, I stayed here. I said, they've gone now, but I stayed here just have a look around the skies. And then out of nowhere, they just started looking, and it was just there. And it was 2 small triangles going up this street here, down towards there.
Coming up parallel with the road?
Yeah, exactly in the straight line here. And slowly, back and forth, just missing each other.
The first one, the John
these have gone into phone. And I just stayed, on the nose, I would look at the skies. And then it was there, just looked that way. And
David said he couldn't see anything between
Yeah, I could just see it. I could see it was a black shape. It was a black triangle. I could see that, but you couldn't see it. Oh yes, yeah. But you couldn't see how thick or deep or anything it was. You know what I mean? All you could see was those lights, and you could definitely see the really black shape of the triangle. You could see what shape it was, but you couldn't see what depth it was. Nothing like that, you know. It's flicking down there. So you went off to the west. Straight in that line, straight down the back garden, straight in that line down there. How did it turn? Did it maneuver, or did it? Only from when it came over this house here. Yeah. It tilted here, and then you could see it was a triangle. So you couldn't until it came over there. And it tilted. There was always little white lights went off, and it straightened out in between, like Byron said, in between those houses there. And then you could see it was just a light on each side. You know. What sort of time was it? 6:15. 6:15. Yeah, it was dark. It was dark, but only just. You know what I mean? It was only just dark. Wasn't it? Well, we've got a place together.
So there we are. You said 6:15. So that was happening at the same time. I have my coordinates wrong there. The road actually runs north-south, not east-west. I got it wrong there. Yeah, I don't know if you got that, but he saw this huge one. That went off to the east, and while the two of his brother and Roger went in to phone up the local radio station, Swansea Sound, he was standing there looking at the sky, and that's when he saw these two smaller triangles moving up and down the road and passing each other a couple of times, and then they headed off as well.
What did he do the following day, Emlyn?
Yeah. Now, Milan did have an interest in UFOs at the time. He had a collection of books on the subject, and I think he said after this happened, he went home, he got all the books, he took them down the bottom of the garden, he burnt them. It affected him that much. He was quite scared.
He wanted nothing more to do with it.
No, he pulled his curtains closed, and he said the following. It was him that said that. He said the following morning there were a lot of military aircraft flying around.
Oh, really?
In the early morning. So, which is an interesting point.
The behavior of the craft that's been described so far, it sounds, John said it sounds like a drone, but to me it sounds more like a probe, or like it's scanning, especially when he described the two triangles going up and down the street, and then with the first witness with the lights coming off the tips. It just struck me as a fact-finding mission. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just how it strikes my ears.
And they were operating in tandem with the big one.
Mm-hmm. And the fact they were so low, I mean, that is strange. Strange. I mean, but again, if they had that sort of technology, why would they need to be so low to the ground as well? That's a bit strange in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get to your witness, Mark. I think his name is Mark, but he said something interesting. It was like they wanted to be seen, and again, the behavior. The behavior, again, the behavior described so far by the two witnesses we've heard backs that up. They're moving very slowly. There's no zipping in and out. You know what I mean?
Just over rooftops.
Exactly.
The first one was. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like downpipes coming off them with the lights on the end. That sounds a bit like the Tic Tacs. We've heard the Tic Tacs had appendages coming off them as well, which is a bit strange.
It was only Orklon Jones that said that they had these appendages. Nobody else has said that. Mm-hmm. But he was, I think, out of all of them, I think he might have been the closest to one of the triangles. Because, he was
below the roof level,
less than a house height above him.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What?
We'll see. There is more witnesses.
Yeah, we better crack on. There's loads. Yeah. That was Steve Rewson. That was in the video, asking the question. The one that looks like Carl Sagan. You know
yeah.
When I first met Steve, I said, "God, you look like Carl Sagan." And he said, "Who's that?" You'd never heard of it.
Right.
But where are we now?
Ken Morse, Emlyn.
Ken Morse, right. This is in Mike's stamping ground in Bishopston. This is we're a bit disjointed here in the timings, but anyway, this is a bit later in the evening. This is about between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. And this guy was, I think he was a BT engineer, but he he was at home for the evening. I think his wife had gone out, and he was sitting down watching the TV on his own. All of a sudden, the lights went out. It was a power cut, and he got up, looked out the window to see if the whole area had been blacked out, or was it just his own house? And he saw 3 lights in the shape of a triangle heading west to east over Bishopston and over towards Swansea Bay. He opened the window and to see if there was any sound. There was no sound at all. And he couldn't actually see the outline of the triangle. It was just these 3 lights in the shape of a triangle, but they were moving perfectly in together, which suggests that they were actually 3 lights on a craft. Yeah. And we went out to see Ken, and he told us what he saw. Got that video?
Yeah, hang on.
Yeah.
His observations.
Yeah, he sent us a very good report about this that he wrote himself.
3
He said
blue-white lights were equally bright, much brighter than any star or planet, well-defined and did not sparkle or flash. There was nothing visible between the lights, and thus no black triangle or ceiling light in evidence. There was no other navigation lights, red, green, or any strobe, rotating beacon lights of any kind to make me think they were commercial or military aircraft. It was completely silent. The relative distance between the lights was maintained until I could no longer see it. The lights did not illuminate anything on the ground or any part of the craft as far as I could see. The lights were still visible as it flew eastward, suggesting they were 180-degree lights and not just downward-facing spotlights. There's nothing else unusual in my field of view. Transatlantic commercial planes flying over at a height of 35,000 feet and around 500 miles per hour have very faint lights and can be heard. Flight radar for altitude and information. Taking all the above into account, it would seem to indicate that what I saw was likely to be a large, low-flying, slow-moving, possibly solid triangular object with a bright light at each corner. I have observed meteor showers, a comet, faint Earth satellites, iridium satellites, flares, and an International Space Station. None of these bear any resemblance to what I saw that night. I have never seen anything in the sky before or since that couldn't be explained. The following day, the Evening Post carried some of the witness stories of the sightings that occurred that night. One explanation I remember was high altitude refueling. If what I saw was high altitude refueling, they must have had a very long fuel lines, because at 35,000 foot, I would estimate they must have been over a mile apart, not to mention having incredibly bright lights. High altitude refueling involves a leading tanker plane followed by yards behind the plane being refueled. I'm guessing at that height at night, it would have looked like one aircraft and not 3 separated by a considerable distance. If the power had not gone off caused by the object, I would not have been looking out of the window. I would have missed it. I may have been the only person to witness this particular sighting over Bishopston. It appears to be very similar to the recent sighting over the Convering Club. That was Ken Morse on in 2015. But yeah. This shows the track that he saw it going in.
Yeah.
From Bishopston to Swansea Bay.
Yeah. This is a large black triangle. I suppose it could have been more in the size that the Milan brothers and Roger Williams saw. Obviously, it was a different time and a different location. It was about an hour or 2 later.
You've got his video now. That's showed you with another map.
The TV on, sat down there, and within a matter of minutes, the power went off. Now, this was a fairly regular occurrence up here because at the time we had 3-phase open wires. We used to blow about in the wind and short out, and obviously that was off for a while then. But on this particular night, there was no wind, it was a clear night, and power went off. So I did what I usually do under those circumstances. I used to get up, look through the window to look at the houses over on Old Way to see whether they still had power on, and if they did, it was just a problem in our lane.
Mhm.
But on this particular night, they were off as well. And whilst looking out to the window, my attention was immediately drawn to 3 brilliant bluish-white lights forming a triangle that was slowly moving overhead. Now, I knew that from sort of things that I'd read in the past that this was one of the famous black triangles. Not that I could see it was solid, all I could see were the 3 lights. So I dared not take my eyes off it in case anything happened. So I moved over to this end of the window, opened the window frame, and just listened. And there was absolute silence. Now, we're in a very quiet lane. We're quite away from the road, so we're used to not hearing anything.
So if you go to the window, can you point to the exact part of the sky where you saw?
Yes, okay. So I was sitting there, so I would have just walked up to the window to look at the houses you can see across the village, the other side of the road there, over in Old Way. And normally they have got 1 or 2 lights on in their houses there, which I can see from here. On that particular instance, there was nothing visible. And I was probably standing reasonably close to the window when my attention was drawn up to that angle there. So as I was standing here looking out the window to see whether the lights were on over there, I noticed 3 bright white lights in a triangular formation that had just passed over the lane, and the back 2 lights lined up accurately with the run of our gutter in there, which to me indicated that it was crossing the lane at 90 degrees. It just carried on very, very slowly over there, and I then moved to open the window to have a listen. And even now you can hear that there's virtually no sound at all. So I watched it from here for a while until it passed over the trees over there and then got fainter and fainter and fainter as it disappeared in the distance over to West Cross and ultimately out over Swansea Bay, presumably.
Okay, so this would have been a west to easterly direction.
A west to east, yeah.
What do you say those lights on it? How bright were the lights? I mean, when you're looking at the jets, you mentioned before to us, I think, that there was you see jets going across from London,
Yes.
New York, etc.
The jets have strobe lights on them, which are just barely visible.
Exactly.
These lights, I would estimate, are about as bright as Venus or the space station going over.
Okay, and about the same size?
About the same size. You could see it wasn't a spot of light. It actually had a physical shape. It appeared to be round.
And that was difficult. Can you estimate the height of the
It's very difficult without any cross-reference to see if anybody else had seen it. We would have been able to say that, taking sort of triangulation from different areas, we could have worked out the height presumably. But I would say that going from the angle and the speed at which it travelled across there, initially I thought it would have to be at sort of commercial airline height, because it was going about the speed that a plane would be going. But then thinking about it, if that was at the same height as a commercial flight, the lights on it would have been brilliantly bright and very large. And that was based purely on the speed that it was travelling. Now then, considering that commercial flights go over at about 35,000 feet, I'm really reasonably certain that this was no way anywhere much higher than possibly 500 to 1,000 feet.
Okay. You couldn't physically make any sort of physical form of it?
No, nothing at all. It was exactly the same colour as the background sky.
So you said it was one object?
It seemed to be one object with 3 lights. They didn't vary in distance apart at all. They maintained the formation as they
Yeah, Yeah, thanks to Lawrence Lowe, who was doing the filming. He did quite a bit of filming with us in those days. I've often wondered whether his experience seeing the UFO influenced his choice of wallpaper.
Yeah.
For the little squares rather than triangles, maybe not. But that was an interesting one. It's particularly that there was a power outage as the object went over. It was mentioned in the Evening Post the following day about the power outage, and Evening Post, true to form, they contacted the South Wales Electricity, who told them that they often have local power outages caused by branches of trees falling on power lines during strong winds. None of them questioned the fact that it was a very quiet, still night and there was no wind.
Yeah.
And the power thing comes up again a bit later. It's a very interesting point. That was Bishopston, but that was a bit later in the evening. We've still got quite a few earlier on at tea time coming up.
Let's go on to the next one, Mike.
Yeah, I didn't put them in order of times. I just put them in order how we had them.
Yeah.
This one is Mark Raver.
Yeah, this is Mark. This was he was 8 years old at the time, and he was with his mother and sister, and a friend. They were leaving their house on Townhill Road, opposite the police station, and it was early evening. He doesn't know the exact time, but it was dark, and they saw two equilateral triangular shapes objects above them, which he described as massive in size and almost stationary. So they were moving very, very slowly in the direction of Mumbles. And these were out over the bay. I don't know if you know, Townhill is the hill above, just immediately to the north of the city centre. And these were heading out over the bay in the direction of Mumbles. So I think we got a video of him here, have we?
Yes.
I don't want to say too much because we're just repeating it then when we see the video.
Yeah.
Mark, what can you tell us about that night? I was going walking my friend home. It was roughly around 7. I did confirm that with my mother. We just got to the gate there, started walking up, and my mother said, "Look at that, that's what I heard." And we looked up at the sky, and right there was two huge triangles, biggest things I've ever seen. One in front of the other. The left one was in front of the right one, just travelling out to sea very slowly. No noise to them at all. I remember the big white rings underneath them and the lights going off all over them. So you see the two triangles? Two, yeah. What sort of height were they like? I would say roughly, and this would be guessing now, but roughly around 500. Yeah. How old are you at the time? 8. And it's difficult for you to remember all the exact details. Yeah. But you can do your best then. So. I just remember the size of them. I'd say if they were down here, I would say they were bigger than 2 foot pictures, easy. How long were you watching them for? Were they sort of static? We were here for about 20 minutes. We were here roughly. So they're moving quite slowly then, are they? They hardly moved. By the time we left, they'd hardly moved. So no sound whatsoever. No sound at all. Nothing at all. And it's my mother that said, "Let's go" in the end because we had to take my friend home. Yeah. Because his mother was waiting. So what were the lighting conditions like? Were the street lights on? The street lights were coming on. My mother confirmed to me that it was just getting dark. So I thought it was dark, but she confirmed it was just getting dark. It was. And, were there any lights displayed on these objects? Yeah, there was a white ring underneath, and there was, I remember, yellow lights, white lights going off all over it. So it's like as if they wanted to be seen. What was the depth of the crowd? It was deep. The way I imagine it, you mean the thickness of the crowd? The thickness, yeah. I wouldn't know the exact thickness, but it was quite deep. But looking at it, they looked shallow, but they weren't because they were just too big. So they were heading south, yeah. Yeah. So if that's south, Lawrence, we could turn and get a shot of the. We could get Mark pointing up to exactly where they were instead. Right? Just there. Okay. Right. Yep. So
That's we're looking southeast there, so we'd be heading left to right towards the beach, basically.
We were going straight up to the beach. Yeah.
That's Mark.
Yeah, and I
That's
think
wild. That is wild.
yeah,
I mean, the size of 2 football fields is colossal. You know, you'd think that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people must have seen this.
Well, good few did.
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever? I'm sorry to interrupt. Have you spoken to many witnesses regarding the night of the triangles who have chosen not to come forward publicly?
Yeah, there was one guy came to. I give a presentation at one of our monthly meetings in the early days, and then like in the Welcome Inn, and I advertise it in the Evening Post, talking about the night when lots of triangles were seen on Swansea, and this guy came and he told us his story. He didn't want to give his name, and then we never saw him since.
He wanted to get it off his chest, didn't he? He'd been holding it for so many years.
Yeah, but he saw it in Landor, and he was actually looking down on it because he was on a hill. It was very low in the valley, where the Liberty Stadium is now in Swansea, the football stadium in that area. And,
So how did he describe the top of the craft?
Well,
if he's looking down on it, how was his description of that? Do you remember?
What did he say? I think he saw these three. Got it, yeah, actually. He saw the 3 lights on the dark craft moving slowly.
Do you want to just prep? Yeah, go ahead.
That was one instance where nobody reported at the time. Well, most of the people who we've been speaking to didn't report it. A few we've managed to track down because they did report it because it was in the Evening Post. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I saw this triangle, yeah," and it was in the Evening Post the following night, and there was a drawing on the article, and it sticks in people's mind, which is really good because we can date their sighting, that we can put them in the night of the triangles rather than on a different night.
And we've got to remember that although things are changing in this topic now and the stigma is going away now, in 1983, it certainly wasn't going away. And a lot of people wouldn't want to be associated with something like this because they would have been seen to be crazy people.
That's the drawing that was in the Evening Post.
Yeah.
Now that was written by, that was drawn by a lady called June Thomas.
We've got to get to those. Come on.
No, we haven't got a video. We haven't got a video of her. So
no, but we got her sighting and her drawings to come.
All right, okay.
Let's move on to the next one then.
Yeah.
People stuck in their minds anyway.
Where is this then? Hang on.
Oh, that's Natalie.
Yeah.
Now, right, going back to the first one we saw, Orllon Jones, yeah?
Yeah.
At 6:15, 2 streets down in Beechwood Avenue in the Uplands. Natalie Bowden was 13-year-old girl. And
I saw this video today. I was shocked. She said some things that shocked me. So, yeah, carry on, yeah.
Right. Remember Mark Rayworth, the last one, said it was like a big ring of lights underneath the triangle?
Yeah.
Well, Natalie described what she called a stadium of lights. It was like a stadium, like a football stadium, underneath the craft.
It's as if she was underneath it.
It was just over the house, and it was static. It wasn't moving at all. But she can't. It was so big she couldn't see the edges of it. So whether it was triangular or square or round, she can't remember. But I'm not going to say anymore. Let Natalie tell us in their own words.
Just for the record, this is not to convince anyone. This is, my story for me. I don't need to convince anyone, okay? So, in this house, I was 13. I was sitting in the back room, which is next to the kitchen in the annex. And one evening, I was sitting with my dog watching TV, and I just had an urge to get up and go out, and don't know why. But come through the house, the dog doesn't follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's up to be on the camera?
Okay. So I came out from the back room, just came out to the front and stood on this step right here. And in the sky, 30 feet above that house over there, is a massive UFO. The central part of it is, as I said before, it's a stadium shaped, but the windows are like this size, but there's a lot of lights, and I thought the lights were creams and ochres and pinks and all soft kind of colours, and they were all different. I thought it was trying to say something to me in my in my head, but I was also standing there thinking, well, what is it doing there? I didn't see the circumference of it because it was immense. It was a black sky. All I was focusing on was the lights underneath. So I'm looking at it, wondering why it's there. For 5 minutes, I'm standing there wondering whether it needs to walk in the park. I'm trying to make sense of what I'm seeing and logically explain it in my own head. So I couldn't make any sense of it. And then I thought people think I'm going to be a nutter, so I better go. So I started screaming into the house to call my brother, my sister, and my stepfather. So they came out, and because I was causing so much commotion, the neighbours in the street had come out. So I said 2 across there, 2 up here, 1 across the. So basically, in the end, there was about 9, 10 of us looking at this thing. The other thing is that it wasn't cold anymore. The sound in the street, it felt like a pin could have dropped. You could hear a pin drop. It was that kind of, just stillness, complete stillness. No sound out of this thing that's there. But when my stepfather and my sister finally come out, they stand on where you 2 are, and they're looking at it, and I'm like, can you believe it? It's a UFO. And he's like, wow, yeah, UFO, but no excitement or interest at all, just kind of like a dull, oh yeah, UFO. I'll put at this point, my stepfather and my sister didn't get along. I'm doing this to set the scene because it's not normal what they did next. He walked in and I said, what are you doing? And he's like, I've seen enough. So he steps down mechanically but fluidly, follows, and my sister does exactly the same. And I'm like, Ashley, what are you doing? She didn't even answer me, she just followed him in, which is not normal. Like I say, she would never ever, just out of stubbornness. So they went in, and I'm like, well, I'm watching it go, so I'm standing there. So it's been 5 minutes I was out on my own. I called them out. They've been out there for 5 minutes. They've gone in. And I'm just standing there, and I'm just watching it, and I'm, kind of looking at the lights, wondering, just asking it questions mentally, telepathically. If I was like sending it, like, what's going on? Why are you there? What are you doing? Take me away. Even asked it to give me another perspective. I'm bored of it. Come on. As a kid, you're just joking around. I was just looking for something and some logic and some sense. So after another 5, maybe 10 minutes, I was just really I was just looking at it, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there. As clear as I'm looking at you 2. I didn't see you move, but you're just not there anymore. It's just blank space. I could see the stars. It'd gone cold. It was windier. That stillness. And there was nobody on the street but me. I looked across all the houses. There's no one there. But what I saw was the central bit. Like I said, I couldn't see the circumference of it, but I know that my sister, we discussed it when we went back in. I went back in kind of really just gutted and upset and wound up. But I didn't see it go. That's where I was there. I just wanted to see it move. And so I went in, and my stepfather, being the jokery wife, said, did you see your UFO go? And I was like, your UFO? And I'm like, no. Really, I just couldn't make any sense out of it. And my sister, had said that she didn't. We didn't discuss it. That's the weird thing about all this, is that we didn't discuss it with the neighbours ever again. Nothing was discussed the next day. No one talked. The next morning, or the next, my stepfather got the newspaper, the Evening Post, and I just opened it on a page, went, there's a UFO, and it said satellite out of orbit in big letters, I think. So there's a little story there. Big letters, satellite out of orbit, or satellite, I think it said. And that's what I remember, just big block saying satellite. And I was like, yeah, is it?
Yeah, that was in the Evening Post. There was lots of theories about what it could be. The authorities saying it was planes refueling. There was a Cosmos satellite. Russian satellite thing due to re-enter the atmosphere on the same day. So they were putting it down to that.
Weather balloon, swamp gas.
Yeah, that's sort of in that elf.
Venus.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Interesting point. What Natalie said there was that when it was happening, everything was very still.
Yeah, that was my. I picked up on that. I couldn't believe it when I remember Mike telling me before about. You said something. He said to me that was very similar to what somebody else has seen, and I never caught on to what he was on about. And you said the same thing to me when you interviewed me, Emlyn, that somebody else had said something similar, and I never knew that it was this. And I watched this video today, and I couldn't believe. I sent Mike a message. Was it today or yesterday? No, I can't remember. It was either today or yesterday.
What she said was that it's as if everything was quiet and still. Yeah. The world had stopped.
Yeah.
Right. Now there was another witness in a woman called Carol in Cardiff. Carol Griffiths, I think.
Yeah, we'll get to her later.
Yeah, but she says about everything was sort of still and quiet, and everything had been switched off. And Jenny Randalls interviewed her at the time. Do you know the ufologist Jenny Randalls?
Yeah.
And she'd met a lot of UFO witnesses who said something similar, and she had a name for it. It escapes me now. No, it's gone. Yeah, she gave it a name, this sort of stillness. But she said she wanted to see it go, this Natalie was saying that. And she said she was waiting. She wanted to see it do something because it was just sitting there. And she waited and waited. All of a sudden, it wasn't there anymore. And the people in the street looking weren't there anymore, which suggests to me that it was missing time.
Yeah.
Part of her memory had been wiped. And a couple of days later, she was in the shower washing her hair, and she found a raised area on her head, and it was a little bald patch, which she still has to this day. No hair grows on it at all.
It's about the size of a 2-pence piece, and it's raised, domed. Yeah.
I took a photograph of it at the time. I got it somewhere. Could there be?
That's wild.
I'm conjecture now, but could there be some kind of something under her skin? Like you hear about implants, don't you? So
has she ever thought about an MRI or something like that to scan, see what's there?
Maybe, yeah.
I'd want to know.
18 years later, a local young lad, Neil Spring, who was doing a lot of UFO work.
I've read that, but I've read his book, yeah.
He contacted Natalie, or she contacted him, I can't remember. And he wanted to set up a hypnosis session with her, but don't think it came to fruition. But something that we might be able to pursue. Another interesting thing Natalie said was that the fact her sister and her stepfather, they were just disinterested.
Yeah, that was the other thing that hit me. I've had the same thing all my life with people. You know, I've been at firework displays and I've pointed out things in the sky, and I even had a laser pen and pointed the one time, and I was literally showing everyone, look at that, and it was complete disinterest. Complete. It was shocking. You know, it was like, there's a UFO. Don't you want to see a UFO? I mean, most people would say, yeah, I'd love to see a UFO for myself. But every time I pointed them out, total disinterest.
Natalie said that she was watching TV or something, and she had a notion to go outside, which is why she went outside. And then she saw this thing. She called her stepfather and her sister. It's as if it was meant for her to see, but not them.
Yeah,
they were sort of like phased out. They weren't interested. I think, that's the thing. Yeah, years later, when Neil Spring contacted her, she contacted her sister to ask about it. Years later, and her sister thought, "Oh, that was a dream. I dreamt that, didn't I?"
Mad.
And her stepdad couldn't remember it at all, even as a dream.
And the fact that there was 10 neighbours outside, and you've never heard from those 10 neighbours, and yet it's clearly the same night as everyone else was seeing the same things going on right across South Wales. So it certainly happened. This is not something she's imagined. Yeah, because there's 60 plus other witnesses. Yeah, it's very, very strange. And the fact she's saying it was rooftop level as well, similar to the guy that's just up the next street up.
Yeah, well, there's 2 streets up. This is actually a mistake. I call it Beechwood Avenue. It's Beechwood Road, it is. You got Long Oaks Avenue, where Allclone was living. Then you got Gower Road, and I think 2 streets down from that then is Beechwood Road. And yeah, it's a good one, that. And she's
very credible, very credible. I thought.
Also, she asked her mother if she'd had any head trauma or any injuries to her head to see if that lump was caused by anything. And Mum said, no, you haven't had any head traumas or anything. No, nothing to be in hospital for with your head. So there's no reason for that lump to be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, next.
This
is
Simon Matthew. In an area of Neath near Brinkhoch, Daphne Road, I think it's called.
Yes.
Young lad, he was about 12 years old, out on his bike outside and looking down towards the southwest, towards Swansea, where BP Llandarcy had an oil refinery. BP had a big oil refinery at Llandarcy, which is now no longer there anymore. He saw red lights in triangular formation over the refinery. Let's see what Simon says.
As I say, I was 12 at the time. I'm 47 now. At the time, I was living in 31 Daphne Road, which is this house here on the corner. And at the time I lived there, there was no hedge row around the house. It was just the pavement straight onto the grass. I was out playing on my BMX right on the corner there, right by the pavement on my BMX. And it was already gone dark. It was pitch dark, even though it was in the evening, but because it was January, it was dark. I rode my bike over towards the corner of the street here, between Daphne Close and Daphne Road. And BP Llandarcy oil refineries on the top of the hill there, the top of the A465. And I could see 2 triangular craft hovering above the works. The 2 triangular craft were consisted of 6 red lights in total. So there's 3 red lights on each triangular craft, on each of the corners of the triangle. I just put my glasses up. And the craft was sort of moving slowly over the works, sort of giving it that sort of motion, almost as though they were scanning the area below them. And I watched it, I was startled. I immediately knew something strange was happening. I knew I was witnessing something amazing. Didn't know what it was, but I knew there was something strange going on. I watched it for a short while, and then I ran into my house around the back door into the kitchen, and I shouted, Mum, come and look at this with me. There's UFOs above BP. And she wouldn't come out. She was cleaning or doing some of the housework like she was always doing. And she wouldn't come with me, and I begged her to come out, but she wouldn't come out. So anyway, I came back out, and I watched some for a bit. I can't remember what happened then, but I skipped forward a day, and then the next day, on the front page of the Evening Post, was this story, 100 spot mystery lights over city. And I showed that story to my mother, and she couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe the story, and she regretted so much not coming out to see the lights with me, to see the craft with me. So that's pretty much the story, really.
You came up here last week and you took a photograph, and you've made a mock-up.
No, I actually took video. I set my tripod up there, took a video of the same view.
You've made a CGI reconstruction of it.
Yeah.
And here it is. It's only a few miles away, but it's another perspective of...
Yeah. How many miles would you say that is? You know, it's about 2 point something miles away.
Yeah, it's about 2 to 3 miles away.
Yeah.
2 to 3 miles.
It shows how large they must have been, because I could clearly see them. I could clearly see them.
So you're the first witness that we tracked down outside Swansea. Apart from...
It's incredible.
Apart from one in Skewin, which is sort of border out.
It's incredible, because look at that sky you can see.
Simon actually contacted us after we had a bit of publicity in the paper for about what we do in Sufon, and I think I mentioned something about this night we called the Night of the Triangles, where lots of triangle craft were seen in January 1983, and then he sent me an email or a message on Facebook, I can't remember which, but he said that when he saw this in the paper, he was having his tea and he nearly choked. He said, "Oh my God, my sighting's in the paper. They've even got a name for it, the Night of the Triangle." So he was really excited, and he's so enthusiastic. He's actually making a film, and as you can see, he's pretty good with computer graphics, and he's tracked down a couple of witnesses himself, and he's making a film called Triangles, I believe, isn't he?
That's exciting.
Yes.
Looks good.
We are going to have some kind of input in this. We're going to help each other because he's managed to track a few witnesses down that we didn't know about, and he wants to interview the ones we've met, so we can work together on this. That's a picture of Kilvey Hill, which there's a radio mast on top of Kilvey Hill, which is a big hill above next to the city centre, and a lot of the witnesses said that they saw this craft over Kilvey Hill. So it's nice reconstruction he's made there.
Yeah, Simon actually showed us a trailer last night. The guys, didn't he? We saw it for the first time. It's very professionally well put together, and I think it's going to be. He's going to hope to try and get it on Prime or on Netflix or something, and it looks good enough to get on them as well. Very well put together.
His sighting was quite distant; it was a few miles away, but it had such a profound effect on him that he's doing this now, only years later.
He's based his triangle for the film on what Mark Rayroth saw.
Yeah. He's got a quote at the bottom there on the poster. It travelled from Kilvey Hill over to Llandarcy in about a second. Now that was a quote from Leanne Gaskins. Is she next?
No, she is coming up though.
We haven't got a video of her, but Steve and I went to her house in Skewin. She still lives in Skewin, and got the full story from her. And what she says is pretty amazing. We'll come to that in a minute now if we've got time. Over an hour now. What's next, Mike?
This one is Bryn Mill, Rob O'Shea.
Rob O'Shea, yeah. Now Rob was with his mate Conrad Edwards. They were about 12 years old at the time, I think, and they were in the Bryn Mill area of Swansea, and I think they'd been on a paper round or they were coming back from rugby. Let's hear what Rob says.
The image which is in my head, I can remember seeing that image in the paper on the front page where there was like UFO spotters and whatever there, and it had the triangle with the 4 or the 3 lights. And I didn't even think. I went, that's what I saw tonight.
Yeah, that was Jim Thomas's. Was the lady who was leaving. She was working in. Spontex.
Oh right, okay.
Down in the South Dock. She was leaving work and she actually saw 3. She reported in the post that she saw 2, but she told us it was 3 because she just saw one disappearing behind the building because it didn't linger in the night. And then she saw these 2 others.
Yeah, because for me, as I said, it was very difficult to get engagement with the size. Big. I mean, if I'm trying to describe to you size-wise, if I can look for a comparison. If I was trying to sort of say from that wire, say about halfway down to possibly the next wire in the side, that would give you any kind of relation to possibly size. From there down to there, I would probably in the back. No, maybe not as far down as that, but it was certainly from there, say to there, in terms of the length of it going back. That's it. But because it was coming up, that's what I seem to recall.
So you had a feeling it was really, really big.
Yes, and I had the feeling as well it was quite low. But as I said, it came up.
Maybe it's because of the size it was. You think if it was really, really high, you would be
exactly because it was dark. And as I said in the past, you'd often see aircraft where they would have delayed sound if they were further away or maybe whatever, but there was just no sound. And I think that was the part. It was definitely mechanical, I say, because obviously the lights there. I can't remember whether they were flashing.
I can't remember any features underneath it.
I couldn't see. I could just see the silhouette. I could literally just see the silhouette. As I said, it came across and went that way. I said, with just no sound. There was no sound.
There's a couple of street lights here. Presumably there was a lamppost of an older type.
Yeah, very possible. Yeah, there probably was.
They weren't LEDs. They would have been
the old orangey. Yes, whatever they were called. Yeah. Sodium.
So the orangey like street lights, and it didn't affect your view of it.
Well, I said because you could see it was a silhouette. As I said, it was quite because it was dark. You could see the silhouette there, but it wasn't as if there was a big contrast. if that makes kind of sense. The lights certainly defined where the shape was. But the other thing, as I said, which was quite striking, was the speed. It wasn't going very fast. It didn't seem to be going fast at all. And I couldn't understand how something of that size could go that slow and make no noise, if that makes kind of sense.
Yeah, and I believe this was just a few streets away from where Natalie was. Again, but go in.
All similar descriptions. It's amazing.
Yeah. I believe he actually knew Natalie. School, I think.
Yeah, the slow pace seems to be a running theme amongst these stories, definitely.
And the height, very low to the ground, massive, silent. It is impressive. I must admit.
And so we've heard these stories from their general members of the public, but were there any officials who saw this? Trained observers, police?
We will be getting to them though.
Right.
We'll zip through these.
When? I think we've done all the videos now, have we?
No, we got another one.
Oh,
no, we haven't got another one. We got somebody to talk to us about one.
Yeah, Peter Gaston.
It's me.
Oh yeah.
And Peter from Townhill.
Okay, so you want me to talk about mine, do you? Okay. Okay, I'm going to do this quick because we got so many to go. So I was 15 years old. Are you going to watch a video, or do you want me to talk about it?
You just might as well talk to it. I've got a clip here of you looking at the direction it was going. And next clip then is looking at the leisure centre.
Okay, I was 15 years old. I'm still in school. I literally find myself in a field with no idea of how I got there. I had no memory of the whole day. I'm looking up at the sky. And as I'm looking at the sky, the whole sky moved. I thought I was looking at stars. I was thinking, oh, what a bright, nice, beautiful, starry night was basically the sort of thoughts going through my head. I hadn't even thought, where am I, or what am I doing here at this point? I was literally looking at the sky and looking at the stars. And then the whole sky moved. And as it moved, I could see that it was a wedge-shaped craft. It was either one wedge-shaped craft or three. I'm not sure, but the front of it, there was a row of lights, just like the Phoenix lights, but much smaller lights and tightly packed. So there was one row of those, and then there was another row. Now I think that was one craft, and then behind that it was the same again, 2 more rows, and then same again, 2 more rows. I had no idea what I was doing there, but literally, I'm looking at the sky. The whole sky moves. And as it moves, I suddenly wake from my daze, sort of thing, and I noticed that it's completely silent. The area around me, I couldn't hear a pin drop, same as Natalie said just now. I felt like I was in a bubble, and I was, away from the rest of the world watching this going on, basically. And but as soon as it moved, I got my bearings. I looked around. There was fog all around the fields. You could see there. I got my bearings because there's a leisure centre you could see in the background there behind Emlyn. And at that time, the leisure centre is closed now. But in 1983, it was still open, and all the lights would be on at night. And I looked there, and I knew where I was. So I took one more look. I watched this craft move away enough, and I thought to myself, this is a bit dodgy. And I literally ran home. I get home, and because I didn't know where I'd been all day, I get to the front door. I didn't see anyone all the way home. That was strange in itself because it was a very busy estate. And at that time, 1983, all the neighbours knew each other. We used to, everyone would go to each other's homes and always be out on the streets chatting. But the streets were completely empty. There wasn't a car driving around again, which was strange. So I get home and I think to myself, I'm going to get into trouble. I don't know where I've been all day. So I'll go around the back of the house. And I literally went around the back of my house, climbed the drain pipe to my house, climbed in through the bathroom window, went to bed. And then I was thinking I'm going to get it in the morning off my parents because I've obviously done something because I've got no memory of what's going on, or I may have done something. I literally go downstairs for breakfast. Nothing gets said to me apart from my mother saying to me, why didn't you clean your rugby boots? yesterday. So I know from that was a Wednesday, because we always used to play the day before. The day this happened was a Wednesday, because we always used to play rugby in school on a Wednesday. I hadn't cleaned my rugby boots, which meant I'd been to school because my rugby boots were dirty. My parents didn't say a word to me. And so I took advantage of the fact I thought I'd got away with it. And I never spoke to my parents about it. We actually moved home about 2 weeks after the event. So we moved into Newport, away from Caldecott, which is the school I used to go to. So I didn't feel, I only had weeks left in school, and I was going to be leaving school. So I didn't feel I needed to tell my friends. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell a soul. I literally, until about 12 months ago, I'd never told anyone on the planet. And then I happened to mention, because I just recently joined UFO Twitter, and I mentioned to the author Bruce Fenton about what had happened with me and what I'd seen, and he said to me, "That sounds like the Night of the Triangles." And you guys know Bruce because he comes to your meetings, and that's how you guys knew him. I didn't know any of this at that time, and he basically put me onto it, and I worked out the dates, and it was exactly the same date. Yeah, I knew the date because we moved the same year, and everything else fitted for me. Yeah. So that was basically my case. So like you say, it fitted. With Natalie saying about it was like a pin drop, and it all. I couldn't believe it when I heard her say that. It was like exactly the same sort of thing.
Yeah, well, you had missing time as well. She did.
Yeah, I got about an hour and a half of missing time or something like that.
And do you have any?
We've got to mention at the beginning, this is Underwood, which is east of Newport. So this is the first one we're looking at tonight, outside Swansea area. We did Neath, and I remember what Jenny Randall's called it now when she interviewed the witness from Cardiff, Carol Griffiths. She called it the Oz factor.
What was it? Sorry?
Oz factor.
The Oz factor, like
Oz
the Wizard
factor.
of Oz. Yeah, this sort of like everything's quiet and still, like the world has stopped and you're in a bubble, like you said. That's just what Carol said to her.
Exactly like that. Until this thing moved, I felt like I was in a bubble and I was all on my own and I couldn't hear a thing around me. And it was like, as soon as it moved, it was the middle of winter, like we've been saying. It was freezing cold January in the UK. And I stood in that field with a T-shirt and a pair of jeans on with no memory of the day. In fact, no memory of the previous day either. I had zero memory. I didn't remember going to school. I didn't ever say a word to anyone. I mean, it was very strange. It was very strange.
Were you left with any physical traces like that last woman?
I have got a mark on my head as well. Yeah.
Really?
But I don't know whether that was for then. It's only because my wife cut my hair and said, "What's that mark on your head?" I never even knew I had a mark. That was the first time anyone had ever said anything. And it's only because of lockdown, and she cut my hair and said, "What's that mark?" And I have got a mark on my head as well. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting because Mark also said when he saw his triangles, they hardly moved. And Natalie was looking outside for 5 to 10 minutes and it wasn't moving, so it's quite interesting.
It was the same with mine. It was literally very drifting. It was like there was totally silent. This thing should have fallen out of the sky, Crazy.
Robert Kay said in the last video that it was moving very, very slowly. And he couldn't work out why something so big was moving so slowly and without a sound as well. So, have we got Peter Watkins' video on here?
Oh, I forgot all about his.
Yeah, Peter was up on Town Hill, just like Mark was, and he saw. I've got his thing here. Hang on.
No, I forgot all about Peter's.
Yeah, I got Peter's thing here on my paper file. He was living in Tyler Crescent in Town Hill, which overlooks Swansea Bay facing south, and he'd gone out to the car when he noticed he saw a triangular craft which had lights at each tip. It was silent and approximately at least 500 feet in altitude. The object travelled east to west from Kilvey Hill area towards Sketty. So he saw his going east to west. All right. Mark saw his going sort of very, very slowly towards the south, didn't he?
Yeah. And that's the same base that Natalie's was sort of, and Phil's was sort of slowly going.
And I think he says this is between 7:30 and 8:30, right?
It was visible for 5 to 10 minutes before it disappeared towards the uplands and Sketty direction over the roofs of houses. He mentioned it to his wife, Claire, when he went back to the house. And then the following day, when he went to work, a colleague of his who lived in Llansamlet, close to the M4 motorway, he saw it as well. So there's another reference to another witness there.
I mean, they were literally over the whole of South Wales, basically, all the way down to Swansea from Newport. And you've even heard cases, you said, from the Bristol Channel. Somebody in the Bristol Channel may have seen something, Mike. I seem to remember you telling me during our interview.
We had an unconfirmed report that fishermen down in Ilfracombe had a massive one going over Ilfracombe that went up to the Bristol Channel towards Cardiff. But we can't confirm it because we can't find the witnesses and we can't find any
it was recorded in the North Devon newspaper, which we've been trying to get hold of. And there was a primary school in Whitchurch in Cardiff called
I've got it a bit further up.
Eglwys Wen Primary School.
Let's move on now then, Mike.
You got that coming up, have you? All right.
I think so, yeah. Well, this one is over Mumbles. We've passed all the videos now, so it's just sightings that we from the database.
Yeah, I found a few of the witnesses actually contacted the police, who then passed it on to the MOD, and they have sort of surfaced in the MOD files, which were released years ago. But MOD files, they redact all the personal information, so you don't know who they were.
Yeah.
This is Mumbles, which is around the end of Swansea Bay. There's a red spot there, yeah. And
for a period of 10 minutes, an observer watched with the naked eye and through binoculars, two very bright lights about the length of a Boeing 747 apart. No shape was discernible. The lights were over the lifeguard station, Mum's lifeboat or Coast Guard station, at 2,000 feet maximum altitude, 1 mile away from the observer. Its movements were described as being steady and changing. So
that's a lot higher. Well, that's between 5:30 and 5:45. Okay, so that's before Orlon Jones, and it's before the guys up in Gosainen, Milan and Byron Balia. Okay.
But this was going on for hours and hours and hours, by the looks of things.
Yeah,
all the way across South Wales.
The earliest we found it is around about 5:15, which should be this one. This is what was written in the Evening Post about Margaret Gaskins and of Lucy Road in Skewin and her children. Well, one of the children mentioned there, 14-year-old Leanne, is the one that Steve Drewson and I went to meet. I won't read that out, but I'll just tell you the story briefly of what she said. In Skewin, which is just to the north of BP Llandarcy oil refinery, which Simon Matthews mentioned earlier, she'd just come home from school, and I think she was watching Blue Peter, and she looked out the window of the living room, which is on the first floor because they live on the side of a house, a hill. And she saw these lights over Kilvey Hill, which is the hill by Swansea with a mast on it, yeah. And it moved from Kilvey Hill over sort of to the side instantly towards Swansea, and then back to Kilvey Hill, and then within a second it shot across towards Skewin, appearing over the oil refinery. And what she said she saw was this triangular object was the size of the oil refinery. It was huge, and it had lights all over it like a Christmas tree, all white, bright lights. And she called her father, and the mother came over, and a sister, Kerry, and they were hanging out the window. Well, she was hanging out the window. The window was open, looking at this thing. And it was there for about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it just shot straight up into the sky. So this is the same location that Simon saw his over the oil refinery, but what he saw were two separate objects with red lights on. Hers was her description.
But it correlates exactly what he's basically said, apart from the fact there was two, but maybe they were side by side and she was only seeing a side profile and not seeing the one behind it, sort of thing.
Maybe.
So
yeah. And her description, what she told us, is different to what her mother told the Evening Post on the following day. It's her mother says that the children, they came running into the kitchen full of excitement. At first, I didn't believe them, but when I looked out of the window, I could see a sphere of flashing lights which travelled from Kilvey Hill area over to Baglan Bay. So Baglan Bay is sort of the direction of the oil refinery. Yeah. The whole family were hanging out of the windows of their flat for a better view, and soon neighbours were also peering out. And a lot of the neighbours, Leanne told us, the men actually worked in the oil refinery, so they had particular interest in what was happening. It was all very exciting, said Mrs. Gaskins. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. Later, I heard that the Sea King helicopter from Brodie had been in the area. At first, I thought the flashing lights must have been from that, she said. But then I was told the helicopter was not over the Swansea Bay until 6:20. I don't believe in UFOs. There's got to be a logical explanation for it, but I can't explain what it was I saw. So, pretty basic what was in the Evening Post. Nothing about this huge craft over the oil refinery that the daughter told us about, particularly when it shot straight up into the sky.
Yeah.
But it must have been a couple of miles across, this thing that Leanne saw.
Next question is, what was a helicopter from Brodie doing over Swansea Bay? Because Brodie is the other side in West Wales.
Yeah, so fake helicopter?
Possibly, yeah.
Here
Possibly.
we go.
Yeah, that was over Swansea Bay at 6:20.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next. Yeah.
That's red dots, Kilvey Hill, isn't it?
Yeah, Brodie mine.
I'm going to have to wrap up in about 10-15 minutes.
Okay.
I think we're going to need to do a part 2 on this. The looks
like
of things.
Yeah. I think we've covered all the main ones that we've heard about.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
Can I address the elephant in the room, the TR3B? What's the likelihood that what all these people are seeing is man-made, being built in Brecon, and maybe just being tested out on that night?
It's the usual thing. Why would they be testing it inches over rooftops in a populated area in a city, Wales' second city, Swansea and Cardiff? At the same time, the reports in Cardiff were just after 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and it was the same time in Swansea.
And supposedly we're going to have anti-gravity craft with amazing propulsion systems that can just literally hang in the sky, miles wide craft in some cases. They're not ours. We can discount them being ours, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And there was one the size of a car. Do you remember we did an interview on BBC Radio once, and the BBC, true to fashion, they consulted an expert in the field, an aeronautics engineer, remember? And his theory was that what people were seeing were airships. He said at the time, 1982, the Royal Navy were experimenting with a blimp which had lights on it, and maybe people were mistaking the three lights in a triangular formation below underneath of an airship. No.
Unbelievable.
Sounds like
rackets as well. These propellers.
So I'll just say at this point, guys, I contacted Nick Pope, who used to be a member of the MOD and was the person supposedly looking into UFOs between 1991 and 1994. So I contacted him today, and he came back to me straight away. Good old Nick, and he said, with apologies, I can't recall this wave of sightings. My time in that job was in between 1991 and 1994. And while I had access to the old files, I don't remember these ones. So I just want to get that in there now for the record that we did contact, somebody who was in the MOD at the time. And something else I did today, I sent off the first, I think it's the first, maybe it's not the first, Freedom of Information request just about this case. I've basically sent that to the MOD and to the National Archives, because I know there's a time limit on these things, and I'll follow that up, and I'll make sure that if we find any information, we'll get that posted to SUFON, and we can get it on the website, and we'll do a follow-up video on this and see whether we can do any more with it.
Yeah, we've got there's a few more witnesses that we haven't mentioned. There's a couple of CID officers. So
do you want to do a part 2 then?
Yeah, Steve and I interviewed these 2 CID guys. We want to talk about that. There's also a new one which we film in next week, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah,
let's do a follow-up. Let's do a part 1 on this, and because there's so much more to discuss for the looks of things.
Yeah, we could be here for another hour discussing what we have got left to discuss.
And
it's pretty incredible already what we've seen.
I've got a comment more than a question. I think it's odd that in the 70s you have the Broadhaven Welsh, so-called Welsh Triangle, then you have the Night of the Triangles in the 80s, and now we have Kaz's testimony of seeing a massive triangle in Penturk. It always comes back to triangles in South Wales for some reason, which is why I asked that man-made craft question earlier.
Yeah, we were up in, Mike and I were up in Kaz's house last week. She did a bit of Skywatch there with a few other people.
Yeah.
And I remember I was telling somebody that, the thing that they saw was triangular shape, but it was up on end rather than flat.
She described it more as a pyramid, I think, didn't she?
Pyramid.
Yeah. The other thing about it was that it was like curved in the bottom, so it was like a pizza piece. You know, if you cut a section of a pizza.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think I was talking to Dave, one of the witnesses. I was telling him about this because I was looking at the picture that was made about it or of it, and if you continued the curved area, if you continued that right round, you'd end up with a big circle, wouldn't you? And this was just 1/4 of a circle, which is a triangle.
I did. I went onto your website, the SUFON website earlier, and I went to your cases, pressed Control F, find on the page, and just typed in triangle. And it came up with 114 matches for triangle/triangular, and about 30 of those were from the Night of the Triangles. So taking all the rest into account, triangles are nothing new to the people
on our website, which is only Welsh cases we got.
Exactly. Yeah. I just.
And if you think of all the things that have been written and said about triangles around the world, Wales is a hotspot for triangles, and yet. Okay, you guys have been out there and been giving presentations on this, but it hasn't leaked out into the worldwide media or on social media. Until now, I think. I mean, I was talking to Grant Cameron yesterday. I'll mention this as well. And Grant has actually asked for a copy of this interview tonight, this presentation you guys have done, because he's really interested, because he's writing a book on this as well, on triangles, and he'd never heard. I mean, again, we really are doing our best to put Wales on the map with showing these historical cases. I think it'll be a good idea to do a follow-up just based on all the other cases, all the other witnesses you've still got to talk about. We've got 2 police officers that saw this that we haven't even spoken about yet. We'll give real credibility. Real credibility to this. If it needs it. I mean, my God, all of the people, the stories, they've all correlated in all the sort of things they've been saying. Rooftop height, football size field, craft,
slow pace,
it's incredible.
Scanning.
Absolutely incredible.
We got about 60 individual witnesses altogether.
That's amazing.
You've only got 30 on the website. I mean, I know Edmund's got a few kicking around in his office there, so.
Let's hope again, and we're going to get some more witnesses like we've had with Kaz Clark. All the publicity that Kaz has been getting. That has brought up new witnesses have come out of the woodwork with that. I mean, we may have more to say on that in the future, guys. I know. So we'll do that at another time. So anyway, thanks ever so much. This has been a brilliant part 1, and we're going to revisit this. So
thanks everyone for watching.
Night of the Triangles, the greatest case you've never heard of. From the country you've never heard of.
Yeah, spot on.
For the places you can't pronounce.
Swansea, Swansea, saying Swansea.
Right. Keep this one short, this intro short. Welcome back to the Special Access podcast. In this always special episode, we welcome back Mike and Emlyn from Sufon to continue discussing one night in 1983 when a hell of a lot of people saw some strange things in the skies. So tonight we're here to stitch it all together. Welcome back, guys, and thank you for joining us again. So I'll pass it over to you, John.
Cheers, Dave. Okay, guys, welcome back, Mike Maunder and Emlyn Williams of Sufon, the Swansea UFO Network. Your regulars on the show now. Before we crack on tonight, I'm gonna tell our audience, and we're going to be talking about part 2, basically, of Night of the Triangles. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. But before we crack on, I'm going to tell the audience what we're going to do on the next show to whet people's appetites, because I'm quite excited about this, and I've always wanted to learn more. Now, filmmaker James Fox, in his movie The Phenomenon, shared the story about the school in Zimbabwe in 1994, when 60 children at the aerial school had a close encounter. And the investigative journalist Ross Coulthard recently shared in his documentary, also called The Phenomenon, the 1966 Westall School UFO case in Australia, which was another very close encounter. And as I've mentioned, we're going to be doing these shows because Wales is basically a world hotspot in UFO activity, and we want to share this fact with as many people as we can. So again, what people don't realize is that Wales also had a UFO case that made the news and made the press in the UK, and that was the 1977 Broadhaven Primary School encounter. I'll just show a couple of pics of that, just so people know what we're going to be discussing on the next show. So these are what made the local press. The children basically would drawn what they'd seen. Very, very similar, basically, to what happened in those other 2 countries. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing on the next show. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So let's get back to tonight's topic, the Night of the Triangles. Back in June, we had the guys on and recorded the first part of this podcast. And basically the event that took place in January 1983 in South Wales, when various craft of all shapes and sizes were seen right across the country. And if you missed the first episode, that's obviously on our YouTube channel. You can catch that on the podcast as well, wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you do go on the YouTube channel, if you could do us a favor and please like and subscribe as well. We need as many members as possible on that. Anyway, let's pick up where we left off, guys, and discuss the other witnesses. Do you want to carry on there, Mike?
Yeah. Okay, we'll do a share screen.
I had it to stream.
Oh, I know. It was down here.
There we go. I've done it, mate.
It's not coming up full screen here. Medium view.
Minimize it? Because he's done it there, like.
What?
Minimize.
Oh, you can't see it from here, can we?
Maximize then.
We can come to bits anyway, can we, Dave? So it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Have you got that now?
Yeah.
Well, we can see it. Yeah, we can see that.
And
do you need to go to view and then just make it, or is that where you want to be anyway on there?
Well, I just thought it would be good to get it according to what it says.
Do you need us on the left-hand side? Because I can make it so that it's just...
Well, we've got it full screen, so we can't see you at all.
Like that?
Yeah.
So we just got the presentation up at the moment, just for the video.
Can you see us?
We okay with it like that, Dave? Or
Yeah,
do you want
I'm
us
fine.
on the left-hand side?
No, this is good.
Okay. What's happened now?
Yeah,
Right, we're okay now?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, this is Peter Watkins, who was living up on Town Hill at the time with his, I think his wife. They were together,
Wife,
then, weren't they? Yeah. They're still together now, even all these years later. Yeah. Obviously, he was a young man at the time, and this is Tyler Crescent in Town Hill, up above the city centre, and we met up with him just over a year ago, I think, and he told us he explained what he saw when he came out of the house. I think it was when he got home from work, and he was just walking up the steps from the car. I think
the footage itself is a bit affected by wind, so I've only just done about minutes clip, so he just briefly talks about it, you know. But anyway,
that's fine, mate. You carry on.
Here we go.
This was so low. I mean, it was just skimmed over the top of that house there, but in the distance.
You remember there were 3 lights on?
Definitely.
Was there one in the centre as well?
No one. I just saw that triangle, one on each point. And that
what was it off? I know it was a long time ago.
I know. I thought, well, I don't know. I just said, what the hell is that? And I watched it. I just and I went in and told Claire. You know, I mean, I wasn't that interested in UFO at that time, to be honest. And and I didn't say too much about it until I read it in the paper the following night. Then in the Post, about how many people had seen it. So then, it was a UFO, and that's what it was described as.
I believe you spoke to somebody in work, didn't you?
Yes, that was many years after. It was quite a few years after. One of my managers, and he lived in the Long Last area, roundabout up there somewhere. And he said, I saw that when I was a child. I just made it to him. He said, it went across the front of the house in Long Last. I don't know what direction it did.
Sorry about the sound there. I thought it was a lot louder than it is.
Yeah, so there we are.
So I could hear that. No problem.
So that's another one of the witnesses, and he refers to somebody in work who also saw it. Long Last is up in Llansamlet, which is northeast of Swansea.
Right.
Not far up.
I should be able to get this on the slideshow now, and it should will work fine. Where are we?
28, huh? 28.
Yeah. So next one is right. There we go. This one is like the triangles, Kilvey Hill.
Yeah, this is a reference to one of the MOD files that was released, which gives very basic information. Doesn't give personal information, it's all blacked out, as you know. And it just says that an observer located outdoors on Pentrygethyn Road, which is northwest of the city centre, described seeing an object 5 to 10 minutes moving slowly around a TV mast. Now, I'm presuming that it's Kilvey Hill, because it's the only TV mast around Swansea. It was described as being one object split into 2 parts, 3 very bright flashing white lights at front and 3 at the back. Massive in size, oblong in shape, no sound or smell. Now that ties in with the 2 CID guys, the police officers, who described at the time 2 objects. We met up with them in the last 2 years, and they also described an huge oblong shaped object, bigger than 2 or 3 football fields in size.
Wow.
So it's all like in a way it sort of corroborates on what they saw as well.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And
but we will be.
You say that's an MOD file. How do they actually at the time that? I mean, people can't report these to the MOD anymore, can they? They don't take reportings anymore. But who did they used to report it to?
It's the police usually. The police file a report and they pass it on to the MOD.
Okay.
That's how they got preserved then in the file, in the system.
And this is how the CID guys, they obviously reported their own when they went back to their station. And did that go to the MOD as well?
Yeah, that would have done. Yeah, because he told us that they radioed it in, and they were told by the radio control that they've had many members of the public ringing in with sightings at the same time. And the fact that they were 2 CID guys is quite good. They're quite good, good caliber witnesses. They are,
Yeah, credible. Make the case credible.
Yeah. One was a police sergeant and one was a police inspector.
Did you speak to them together then, or was that a separate meeting you had with them?
We went to their house. They haven't seen each other for years, actually. They're quite elderly now. But yeah, we went to each of their houses to interview them separately.
Did you video that, Emily?
No, we didn't video it at the time. I took still photographs in one of the houses, which we've got on the website, I believe. But we will be. I've got an idea to film an interview, pick them both up in 2 separate cars, and film them in the cars, and then drive to the site where they saw they had the sighting from, and then they could meet up, and we could film them meeting up for the first time in years.
Yeah.
And then they could tell us together explain what it was.
Well, we know the way this topic works. I mean, for some reason, people take seriously police, pilots, and military people. So this case will start to be taken seriously if we can get some video documentation of these guys being interviewed up. Really help the case, I would have thought.
Yeah. We got the contact details. It's just a matter of setting that up.
There's a bit of a push at the moment for like ex-military, MOD, pilots to come forward and talk about their sightings, because they're very credible people to be interviewed and talk, because they obviously have sightings.
Yeah, I think this has come from the TTSA and the Unidentified series, where basically that's the only type of witnesses they spoke to were military people or pilots. So that it seems to be that this has been carried on, and if you want to talk to credible people, it seems those are the people you need to seek out for some reason. I personally don't agree with that. A witness is a witness. At the end of the day, I mean, you judge with your gut feeling when you listen to somebody, whether or not you think they're credible or not. And if things match up and there's other witnesses to what they've seen as well, and they've got photographic evidence, then everyone should be taken just as seriously, personally,
But about those 2 CID officers, we could talk about them again in a minute, because it's going to come up in the presentation. What's the next one we got?
Next one is, that was the CID one, wasn't it? That's where it would have been. This is the map of where, to show you where in Swansea it was,
Yeah. Well, no, that last one I just read out was let's have that a minute. That was Pedregethin Road. Is this road? Is this road here?
Perhaps it was the one.
So somebody there was looking towards the TV mast, which would have been Kilvey Hill.
Yes.
And that corroborates. Can you see the cursor moving about?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the CID guys, after interviewing them, because it was referred to in the Evening Post at the time, and John Hanson quoted a press cutting, which I'm not sure where you got that from, but because we actually spoke to them, they managed to tell us exactly where they were, and they were at the top of a street called Meiser Have in Trachloin, which is this area here.
Okay. Just the Evening Post is the local Swansea newspaper, is it?
Yeah. So the 2 CID guys were here, exactly there, right? And they saw what they described as a huge rectangular object heading their direction, going this direction, and then it turned and went down that way towards the sea.
Okay.
And he did a sketch for us.
I think we got sketches there.
Yeah, we got the sketch here. We'll show that in a minute now. What's the next one you got there?
Excellent. Another Kilvey Hill one.
Yeah, there's somebody else who saw it over Kilvey Hill, about 5:50. This is another one from the MOD files I found. Over a period of 6 minutes, an observer located on the road Heol Talacoppa in Llansamlet reported seeing 2 objects travelling at a steady rate west to east from the DVLC in Morriston towards Kilvey Hill. One object was a large elongated shape with 2 pulsating white lights at the front and 2 yellowish steady lights on the rear. The second object was small and triangular with steady white lights. No sound or smell was associated with the sighting. Now, this could very well be the CID guys from their report, because this is in the MOD files. It doesn't identify the person who made the report.
Yeah.
But Heol Talacoppa was actually where the CID guys were. They were at the junction of Meiser Have and in the Talacoppa area, which is on the hill up above Trachlon, which is part of Llansamlet.
Okay.
the map there that we've got is just an approximate location of where the witness was, just for those illustrative purposes. That is.
The DVLC is now the DVLA.
Yeah.
Oh,
The driver vehicle licensing centre used to be called, and it's called the Driver Vehicle Licensing Authority, which is huge office.
That's right on
block.
the coast, right on the front. Then is it?
No, it's up on the hill above Morriston, right next to the M4.
Okay.
North of. Okay.
Right.
There were a few reports from the MOD.
This is the map for it.
Yeah, that's the location where the CID guys were.
Yeah,
what's that?
Got the CID guys next. This looks like something. Right. No.
Oh, this is what John Hanson quoted one of the references for his book series Haunted Skies. Giving his source as the MOD files. So obviously he's getting his information from the same place that we did in the last two cases I just read out. This is 5:55. This is again about the same time. An aircraft-shaped object moving far too slowly to be an aircraft, showing 6 lights at the front and 3 lights at the base, was seen over Swansea Airport heading west over the Gower Peninsula. Okay. Now that could have been... have we talked about David and Carol Backcup yet? Living in
I don't
Calais?
think we have. We've come up to them.
Yeah, because another 2 witnesses we spoke to, which we will be videoing quite soon. At the time, only myself and Steve interviewed them in the house, and we made notes. Saw 2 objects going over Calais, which is west of Swansea, heading towards the Gower over Swansea.
I'm putting this on screen, guys, because it's not.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's
it's good. It's not going to look that good for people just watching, just a PowerPoint presentation. We need to be on here so they know that we're actually all here together and discussing it. Carry on. Sorry about that.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, that's from the MOD files with very basic information of the witness. Just says quoted by John Hanson. That's my phone up there. Okay, what's the next one? Move on.
This is the one I showed you where Swansea Airport is in relation to everywhere else.
Yeah.
And that was the what we just did.
Yeah.
So it's just on the edge. This one is in Landor.
At 6 p.m. We had one of our SUFON meetings a couple of years ago. We gave a presentation about the night of the triangles, and I put something in the local paper in the Evening Post, talking about this particular night where so many people saw triangles. And we had a few people come to the meeting who were witnesses. One man didn't want to give his name or his identity. He was very, very sketchy. I think he was a bit scared, actually. But he told us where he was. He was in the Landor area, looking down into the valley at Cum Level Park. And he saw a black triangular craft displaying lights hovering over the Morva area, which is roughly where Swansea City Football Club have got the Liberty Stadium now.
Oh, yeah.
Swansea's not called Stadium.
And he said it was low, and he was actually looking slightly down onto it because he was on an elevated position on the hill. So this is quite unusual for a UFO sighting. He was actually looking down on the object.
Very
It was about the size. He said it was about the size of a bus, and he said it was just above rooftop height and was drifting slowly.
Move to your left slightly. I mean, I can't see you on the camera. They're going to see a part of your head. That's it. That's better.
Yeah, and again, that was about 6 p.m. So, and that was at a low altitude. At the same time that these 2 big objects were seen over Kilvey Hill, the CID guys saw it going over the valley towards them. So it can't be the same object, but it's at the same time.
Yeah.
This is what coming up time and time again is objects seen at the same time but in different localities.
And different shapes.
Sometimes in the same locality. Or this guy said it was a black triangular one. The CID one saw a huge oblong object with a triangular one behind it.
I mean, have we catalogued how many different shapes they were? Because of now we've got to be about 6 or 7 different shapes already and different sizes.
What, on this particular night?
Yeah.
Well, ours are slightly different. Quite a few of the others. We've got oblong one, you got the chevron one, you got big triangles, small triangles.
I've been trying to work out from the witnesses' testimonies whether the witnesses to the same object traveling over, because they were moving over an area. Look at
I'm wondering whether this is like slide 9 territory, altered perceptions, manifesting as different things for different people. You know, the object that I saw, you know, nobody else saw this miles wide craft. Was it really a miles wide craft? Was it a small little craft? You know, there was just my perception. Maybe it was altered. You know, it makes you wonder. It really does make you wonder, because we're all reporting different shapes and different sizes.
Yeah,
they're all in different locations around the same time. It's strange.
An object, the same object viewed by different witnesses in different localities, can alter the shape of the object to different people depending on the angle of view. Maybe.
Yeah,
so
that as well. Yeah.
This is, you can see where this one is. You know, it's not far from some of the other ones we've just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're quite close together, the sightings.
Round about the same time.
You could do with a map with all the witnesses in South Wales pinpointed. Yeah.
I've got one of those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What's the next report? Oh, this is Roland Betts. Now, unfortunately, Roland Betts is no longer on this planet. He's passed on to another dimension, and passed away, in other words. This is approximately 6 p.m. Now, he was living in Calais, Dunvant Road in Calais, Dunvant area, which is west of the city, and he just uncoupled his trailer. He was a lorry driver, and from his location in Dunvant Road, high up on a hill with a sweeping view over Swansea Bay, he said, "As I got out of my vehicle, I was attracted by a large area of stars that were blocked out. There was a massive round object. I would guess at approximately 10 to 20,000 feet in the air." So this one's pretty high up, this one is, compared to the last couple we've looked at. It appeared to have lights around the perimeter and was absolutely silent. If it was moving very slowly. For some reason, it didn't sink into my mind what it might be. I went into the house and told my wife that I just seen a UFO in the sky. Imagine my surprise when she told me that a program had just been interrupted by a news broadcast relating to a UFO having been sighted over between Swansea and Cardiff by many people. Now, that was quoted by John Hanson again in his Haunted Skies.
So there was a news report on the night of the triangles of a UFO being spotted in the area. Can we get hold of that? Has anyone ever got hold of that news report?
I wondered if it was over the radio rather than TV, because I can't see it being on TV. So it could have been something like Swansea Sound or the Wave.
Yeah,
the Wave one.
It just says it's just referred to a program. It doesn't say if it's TV or radio. Yeah. It was just interrupted by a news broadcast.
But I got a feeling
if it's local, it's probably the radio, isn't it?
Yeah.
That time.
I got a feeling Swansea Sound. Every now and again they mentioned UFOs, and somebody did the UFO. So it could well have been, you know, from that program.
Yeah.
Trying to find the program is
no. Yeah. Steve Drewson tried to track down Roland Betts, and he found out that Roland died a few years ago. So we can't really check that one out.
And this is the area where he was. Again, it's not far from Swansea Airport, where we've just been.
Yeah. And his object that he saw was 10 to 20,000 feet in the air, round about 6 o'clock. Same time as the CID officers and that unidentified witness who was in Landor, who was looking down on the object. Obviously not 20,000 feet if he was looking down on it.
Yeah.
At the same time. About the same time. Okay, next one.
I cannot believe that there are no pictures.
No.
There's all these witnesses. You know, in 1983, we still had cameras in 1983. You know,
it was that night. It was that night.
True.
Not
many people walked around with a camera like they got like now.
If you had mobile phones, there'd be loads of people walking around.
Yeah,
mobile phones.
And a lot of these witnesses as well were children at the time.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
Apart from the ones which passed away or very elderly now. Anyway, this is the CID guide. Do you want me to read it out or just?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Troke and Detective Sergeant Mike Troke and
I'll make
Detective.
this a bit bigger. Give me a second. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah, Detective Sergeant Michael Troke and Detective Constable Gethin James. Okay. There'd been a spate of burglaries in the Trafflin area, and they'd gone to see a member of the public to take a statement. And they were just coming out of the house, which is right at the top of Miser Harve in the Talacopper area. And looking southwest, really good view down the valley, because I'm actually from Trafflin. I know the area really well. I grew up there. I actually did a paper round probably to the house that they're talking about there. And Mike said, "Good God, what the hell is that?" Gethin replied, "It's like 2 football pitches." To which Mike said, "It's like the whole length of Woodfield Street," which is the main street in Morriston, if you know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Mike described it as being rectangular with flashing blue lights arranged along the sides. And there were 2 blue triangular lights at the rear, all part of one object moving slowly towards them from the southwest. So up the valley from the Lando area, if you like, and Kilvale. It was about half a mile to a mile away from them in the southwest, moving from the Landor area. It was blocking out the stars behind it. They were looking up at it at an angle of about 45 degrees. There was no sound from the object, and when it was roughly over the Winchwen area, it slowly turned to the left, which would have been the object's right. So it turned right itself, But from their viewpoint, it turned to their left and shot off to the south towards Swansea Bay. Now he says shot off, so presumably it speeded up. They heard over their police radio that many reports were coming in from the public about seeing unidentified objects in the sky. There were a number of calls from the Port Tennant and St Thomas area, which was in the docks area, south of Kilvey Hill. About 2 hours later, back at the station, they received a phone call from the RAF at Uxbridge. This is interesting because the RAF were taking an interest here, and they were interviewed separately.
So did the RAF contact the police, or the police contact the RAF?
Yeah, they received a phone call.
The RAF contacted the police.
So
they must have seen something on radar.
Yeah,
is that what we're assuming? Yeah,
possibly. Yeah, or they'd heard that the police had just phoned in that the 2 police officers had seen something. Maybe it was 2 hours later, so that it took 2 hours for the RAF to find out that the 2 CID guys saw it. They were asked the same prepared questions, such as description, size, what did it do, etc. This is what Mike Troke told me and Steve when we went to see him. Before we put this up on our website, that little nugget of information wasn't made public.
Yeah,
it wasn't in the Haunted Sky series. It wasn't in the Evening Post references that we found.
This is the first time I've heard about this. I didn't know the RAF had got involved.
Yeah, I'd actually forgotten that bit. It's a pretty important bit, and I forgot about that bit. Right, later, BBC Wales telephoned and asked Mike for an interview, but he declined, fearing that they would be ridiculed, which would have obviously been the case at that time for the police. If you remember, Alan Godfrey got ridiculed at the time, didn't he? And that was only 3 years before. So
yeah, but don't forget that. Oh, it's gone. I can't. I was going to say now. Carry on as you were.
So have we got this drawing that you did?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. We got. Oh yeah, in the local newspapers there were a couple of articles over the days after, and one of they quoted like the MOD because they had obviously spoken to them about it. And don't forget, last time we had this, on part 1 we talked about a helicopter being from Brodie flying around Swansea Bay.
Yeah.
So they obviously knew something because there was a helicopter in Brodie.
Yeah, search and rescue helicopter.
Yeah.
They said, yeah.
So anyway, this is the area where they saw it again. Micey Half area,
yeah, on the Trachlan Talacopper area. So it's quite on a hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's a picture of Mike Troke now doing his drawing. So this picture I took when me and Steve went to see him.
I haven't got the.
Now, just go back a sec. They did so that the RAF contacted the police. There's no reports then of jets in the area or anything else on later that evening, or they didn't send up any planes to look into this then.
Not that
If you remember, when we interviewed Milan and what's his brother, isn't it? Byron.
Byron, yeah.
Milan and Byron Baliak in Gosainan, they sighted.
Yeah.
They told us that the following morning, very early, there was a hell of a lot of military planes flying around, jets and helicopters. But that was the following morning, but good 12 hours later.
Makes you wonder why they would think it would be necessary to come the next day for what are they going to see? It's strange, isn't it? It's strange, unless they've picked something up on radar that we can't see ourselves and they've gone to investigate.
Or maybe it just took them a while for the wheels to get in motion to organise it.
83 is, that was like 40 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, didn't have the internet then. So it was all word of mouth and telephone and stuff on the radio, and maybe overnight they don't forget. Maybe
we still have got the Cold War going on, and if a war's going to break out, they're supposed to scramble quick and get up in the air and see, and see what's going on. So you'd think, they could scramble a plane or two or a helicopter and get it up to take a look. It's strange that they come back the next day. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, unless they've had a report of something still in the area the next day as well, and they've gone to, they've reacted to that. Perhaps
they obviously knew about it in the night because they phoned the police station and talked to the police officers. So they obviously knew something was going on.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the part of this case we need to do a bit more research on. I think. Find out. Can we do a freedom of information request on what the RAF were told, how they found out, what was going on, and maybe find out a bit more about the police side of things through that as well.
So you can send a FOI to the police to see how many phone calls they had and et cetera on that night.
Yeah.
This one's another witness about 6 p.m. This is another MOD file. The witness's location was Llwynhendy, which is Llanelli area, just between Lucker and Llanelli, overlooking towards the North Gower area, over the estuary.
Yeah.
The witness says over a period of 10 minutes, saw two objects, long, one in front of the other. Second object had large red steady light on the front and a flashing white light in the centre and tail of both objects. It moved from the Swansea direction and then headed towards Gower at a steady, slow speed. So that could have been the sighting that Roland Betts, the lorry driver, saw. Maybe from this witness would have been at a distance and just described heading over the Gower.
And the first thing you got to realise with these, when people make a report like this was at a time when people were getting ridiculed, and there was a lot of you take a lot of stick for saying I saw a UFO. You didn't want to look an idiot, and we've got all these reports from one night from all these different witnesses who put themselves. They've contacted. It's not just they phoned the police and they've reported these things. They're not just telling their mate down the pub. They phoned the police and they've put a proper report in as much as they could do. It's pretty shocking.
And at the time, there was a system in place where the police had to make a record of the report and then pass it on to the MOD because it was to do with objects in the sky. Could be defence issue, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So they had to do that.
Yeah.
Now, what do they do now? I don't think they do that anymore.
And don't forget, it's I've gone blank again.
It's a long day, is it?
No, and it's just been in the House of Lords. They've just held, they just I can't even think what they call it, but they basically just some baroness has basically come from the Ministry of Defence and said in the House of Lords that they do not consider this a defence risk of any type, so they're no longer investigating it.
Yeah, well,
That's
yeah,
basically so there is nowhere to report these
Yeah.
things anymore. I mean, that's
No,
what they tell us. I find that
MOD
hard to believe personally, but I think there is probably still somebody still investigating. It's just we're unaware of it.
Nothing going on behind the scenes. The MOD
Yeah.
closed their public UFO reporting desk in 2009, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they said they closed the books, so there's no more filing the reports. But I think it still goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Don't forget then that people would be phoning the MOD to say what this plane is up, what this triangle looking plane is.
Yeah.
You know, so they phoned the police, they phoned the MOD, and that's how we came across these. MOD
But then I phoned the police on the night when I saw the object land down by the Lucker estuary when I lived down that way, and the police kept on coming back to me, but I never seen a report. They never got to the MOD from what I can gather. And that had all stopped at that point. It was literally me talking to the local police station. That was the end of the road for it.
Yeah, well, that was 2010, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a year after.
The desk was open.
There's two massive military helicopters passing over my house. Sorry.
All right. They come for you, mate. We'll catch it on film, the abduction now. Yeah. Go like that as you go in.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt there.
Sorry.
I felt the need to mention it.
Yeah, that's the location of Thorn Hendy where that last witness said that looking across the Gower in the south.
Yeah.
So I press that one, huh?
Big one. Yeah.
Right, this is another MOD report referred to in the Haunted Skies series by John Hansen, citing South Wales Echo, which is a Cardiff paper. Okay, 6:05, a silver-coloured saucer-shaped object, different, showing 4 or 5 lights flashing in rotation, was seen motionless in the sky over the steelworks. Now that would have been Port Talbot at 6:05 p.m.
British steel back then. It's tartan now, isn't it?
Yeah. A few minutes later, it was joined by a second UFO. The two of them then moved off towards Swansea. This is 6:05. It's all happening.
6 o'clock was the time that we've talked about 4 or 5 cases now, and they're all roughly about 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I think Milan and Byron was 6:15, and Orllwyn Jones.
So it is dark in the UK, so people who don't realise at that time of year, it's dark in the UK at around 6 o'clock in January. In the US.
Yeah.
It's 5:30.
And I noticed in the MOD report, it records the time period as being 1750 to 1815. Okay. So that was referred to in the South Wales Echo as well. So
this is the area
of the steelworks. Yeah.
So they all, you can see all the areas just in a certain area.
Yeah, they've hugged the coast. And is that when you pinpointed where these people lived and the ones who reported it? Is that what you've noticed, that these objects have all hugged the coast?
Yeah, they're all around a certain area.
They haven't ventured into mid Wales or anywhere like that. You haven't got any witnesses up there from the same night. Nothing in the Bracken Beacons or that sort of area.
I found one report from Merthyr Tydfil and a couple from Cumbraen.
We have got at least 3 other night of tried witnesses to chase up. One of them was up in the valleys, and I can't remember where the other 2 are, but they were all around.
These are new witnesses that have just come in, yeah. Wow. So we're still this case is still live and active, and we are still getting new people coming forward even now after all these years. I mean, this is 1983 for everyone listening,
Long time ago now.
Yeah. Long time ago, and that's pretty impressive. It made such an impression on them. They're still coming forward. That's amazing.
We don't prompt it or put anything up online or anything. They just contact us with a sighting they had on a certain date, and you look at the date, you think, "Oh, right, yeah, that's the triangles."
Often they, as I said earlier, they were children at the time, but it made such a profound effect on them. Yeah. It stayed with them all these years.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah.
Moving on to the next one.
It's Baglan.
This is 6:30. Richard Gravel was observing the stars through his binoculars from Baglan in Port Talbot. He observed 3 sets of bright lights in triangular formation, travelling slowly in an easterly direction. He assumed at the time that the lights belonged to an aircraft, as some of the lights flashed on and off at regular intervals. He was struck by the absence of noise. As the lights were going over, a shooting star travelling from the northeast to southwest passed immediately behind the lights. Now, Steve and I went to see this gentleman. He still lives in the same house in Baglan. And he actually gave me a photocopy of his diary entry. He actually wrote it in his diary, so it records the exact time, obviously the date, which is a nice little document to have. And 6:30 p.m. Now, what he saw, they were heading northeast to southwest.
Coming from the northeast to the southwest direction.
Can you put that on the website, Emily? Can you put a copy of that on the website so we've got?
Yeah, it is. It is on the website.
It is on there already, is it? All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
from there, yeah. That's what I.
That's where he was when he
So
saw it.
going northeast to southwest would have been coming from behind the mountains behind him.
So he said he was going towards the east, and he lived in Port Talbot, so it's going towards Newport. Is that the direction it's going?
Go from the northeast towards the southwest.
So it's heading out over Swansea.
So it's heading towards Mumbles, the Mumbles, you know.
Okay.
30. Okay, moving on. Next one. This is MOD files again. 6:30 p.m. Same time as the last one. An observer located on the highest point of Swansea on a hill, in inverted commas, presumably Town Hill, saw 3 white flashing lights moving at a steady, slow speed towards Swansea Bay. Now, I think that's referring to the last witness, I think. Because
Mike, I'm just going to stop you here. I've got to get my head around this. Every one of these MOD files, you think people phoned the police on the night and reported they got inundated.
Yeah.
They were inundated with calls.
Yeah. Well,
literally,
Mike Trout told us that because when he radioed the station, they were told that there's been loads of people phoning up.
It must have been to have a little slot on the local radio station to say that there's UFOs been seen.
Can we pause a second? I've just been told I've left the lights on in the van.
It's all teamwork as far as I can see.
Yeah. Okay, I'm back.
There we are.
Emily, I was just saying now that David Marler contacted me last night, and he did an interview a week ago with Martin Willis, a podcast, and he said what great work the guys in Wales were doing on triangles, and he's told me he wants a copy of this interview and to keep him informed of any other interviews that Sufon do, because he's really interested in what Sufon is doing and he's really impressed. So you're aware.
I said to John, it'd be great if we could do a podcast with him, but similar to this.
Yeah, we can do that. I can arrange that.
Yeah.
He's part of my chat group, so he's we can talk to him anytime we want. I'm sure he'd be more than willing to have a chat.
Yeah. He's even offered. He said to me before, can we do a Skype call and things, And that was before I started getting into doing these podcasts. So.
Well, he'll watch this and you'll hear that. We can keep this bit in.
Not all the reports are up on the website yet. I'm just reading some of the ones we got on the website, and I'm trying to drag out a few more from my head in a minute now.
Let's go for it.
See, this was where that was this is where that one was.
Presumably, it doesn't give them much information on that report, does it? Just MOD file on a high point above on a hill,
A heavily redacted piece of paper.
This is June, lovely June.
Yeah,
this lady comes to our meetings every month, and when she came to the first meeting, I realised who she was. I couldn't believe it because I was trying to track her down for a while. June Thomas, and she. Of Bonamine, right? She worked at the Viscose plant, which was a sponge factory in what is now the Marina area in Swansea.
Okay. It's now where a load of flats are being built.
So in the docks, the western docks, sort of near the city centre. Yeah. She was just leaving work, and she saw in the Evening Post at the time, which she actually did a drawing of what she saw. They reported 2 triangles that she saw, but she actually told us it was actually 3 triangles, but one of them, because of the proximity to the buildings of the factory. One of them sort of was she saw it as it moved behind the building, you know. So she saw 3 anyway. 2 of which she did drawings for that she saw clearly, but she saw one just disappear behind the building as they were moving.
And are they triangle shaped or are they like boomerang shaped? You know where I'm thinking here. I saw 3, and mine were boomerang shaped. So.
In a sec, we put the drawing up that she drew.
Okay.
They were classic triangles with white lights at each corner and red lights in the center. Anyway,
TR3B types. Yeah.
Yeah, she said she saw. I'll read out what was in the Evening Post at the time. Okay.
Yeah.
June Thomas of Pedricreath Road, Bonamine, Swansea, had just finished work as a cleaner at the Viscose plant at South Dock when she saw the mystery objects. Mrs. Thomas said today she discounted theories put forward by Swansea coastguards that the lights she saw in the sky were meteorites burning up as they entered the Earth's atmosphere. What I saw was 2 objects, very big objects, moving across the sky slowly and without any noise, she said. Call them flying saucers, if you will, but they were definitely not planes or meteorites. Okay, that was in the Evening Post on the 21st of January, 2 nights later. And I wrote this. June Thomas is now one of SUFON's regular attendees at meetings and has given us more information regarding her sighting. She actually saw 3 triangles. She just caught a glimpse of the leading one in the formation as it was obscured by a factory building. Because she managed to get a good look at the other 2, it was these she did drawings of, which appeared in the newspaper. The craft were out over Swansea Bay, heading southeast, and she saw them turn to a more easterly course in the direction of Port Talbot, moving her right to left, until they too, like the first one, was obscured by the Viscose buildings. Okay, and this is the drawing that was published in the Evening Post. Okay, you see that?
What year was that published?
That was 2 nights after.
So this is in 1983. This got published in the Evening Post.
21st of January.
That is shocking, isn't it? I mean, we're all the pictures we saw, the Belgian wave, except was that going on the same time in 1983?
No, that was
the Belgian wave then.
89. That wasn't it?
Wow.
Which is quite interesting.
91.
It's quite interesting because we had a wave of triangles in 83. There was another one in 86, and that we had a few reports here, as well as that was in England.
17th of March, 86.
Yeah, and then that was with England as well. And then you got the Belgian wave then, which is in 91, is it? So you got 3 waves. David Marler touched on this. 3 waves, and they only go as far from Wales, across parts of Wales and Britain, and then over to France or Belgium. And there's been no other waves since.
Yeah, there was the 1983 one that we're talking about tonight. There was another one in March, 17th of March 1986, and they were both poo-pooed, and they tried to explain both of them away as Vulcan bombers being refueled at altitude. That's why people saw these 2 triangular objects in close proximity, but it obviously weren't Vulcan bombers because they were very, very. Some of them were very, very low altitude with no sound whatsoever, and
they were massively noisy Vulcan bombers. From anyone that ever saw one, I saw one, and the huge noise came from them. Yeah,
the only jets I know of that could hover was the Harrier jump jet. So these.
That's right.
They make a hell of a lot of noise, but
right.
Remember we give a interview on a BBC radio program called the Unexplainers.
Yes, yeah.
And typical BBC, all media really, they tried to give the opposite side of the argument by getting some, in inverted commas, an expert, and they had what was it, an aeronautics engineer said, oh yeah, at that time, 1983, the RAF were experimenting with airships, blimps. And one of those flying over with 1 light at the front and 2 at the back would give the impression of it being triangular.
Oh, God.
Conveniently left.
Is this person related to Mick West?
He conveniently, obviously, hadn't read all the reports. And the fact that the witness is saying there was no noise whatsoever was pretty important, because a blimp would make noise because they got petrol engines on them.
Yeah.
That's right.
To drive the propeller.
And you wouldn't be find one of those over lower rooftops, would you?
Orland Jones, he said it was like literally inches over the house opposite. It went over, and it was triangular in shape. And
same as what Natalie said. Yeah, hers was huge. Above an old Lodge and Natalie lived like 2 streets away.
This lady that drew the 3 that looked like the TR3Bs, what size did she say they were?
Triangular.
What size?
I think it was medium size, isn't it? Maybe 1 big one and 2 medium ones.
What size are we saying? When we're not talking football field size like other witnesses are describing.
Well, in the Evening Post, she said she saw mystery objects, discounted theories put forward that they were meteorites. What I saw were 2 objects, very big objects, she says, moving across the sky slowly and without any noise. Okay, well, and obviously she did the drawings of them, so she must have seen them in pretty good detail to make the drawings. Which she sent into the Evening Post.
And they're almost identical to every TR3B type picture I've ever seen. I mean, sometimes they got one big light in the middle.
And this is 1983.
Yeah. This is 1983. I mean, my God. Yeah, you're right.
Don't forget Natalie. Right. Natalie also said she saw the big, like opaque lights, a big circular thing in the middle.
Like a stadium of lights.
Yeah. But you look at June's drawings, and you haven't got that big round thing in the middle. You've got these 2 or 3 other smaller ones on the inside of it.
Yeah.
If you look at the map now, you'll see her location now.
So maybe she was looking at the front of one of them. Is that what you're thinking? And they got an appendage sticking down. If she was thinking it was like a stadium of light at the, maybe it was the front of the craft. She was seeing a triangle.
And that shows where she was.
This is where June was,
and the building would have been directly in front of her. So she
said they were out over the base, so they would have been at a low altitude, I think, because if they were very, very high, the building wouldn't obscure them that easily, would they? But if they down low,
we got quite a few reports of them going over Swansea Bay. The one in Bishopston. He saw it going over. It was heading towards the Swansea Bay area.
And that caused. I think we talked about that last time, didn't we? Yeah. It caused a blackout, power failure in the area where he lived in Bishopston, which is this area here. Now he saw the 3 bluey white lights heading off that direction. Okay. Yeah. Now I wanted to talk last time about this interesting point about this power outage, because we interviewed one guy who said that he worked in the Alcoa factory, which is here in Wynaloedd, which is northwest of the city. And he said, he was on nights, he was on days. He said when he went to work the following morning, all his workmates who were on night shift said that at about tea time or 6 p.m, something like that, all the lights went off in the factory, but they didn't all go off at the same time.
They didn't go off instantly.
Yeah.
It's like a knock-on effect.
They went off from the north end of the building to the south in stages.
That's weird.
Which to me suggests that something was flying over slowly.
And knocking them out, knocking the electric off as it went over. Then once it had gone over, it's sort of like it came on. As it went off in like stages. I don't know if it came
Close Encounters type effect that you see in that movie. Same thing.
Very cinematic. Yeah.
Wow. I just can't go over this case. I am blown away by this case.
Yeah, this is
Rita Bradley.
Yeah, I've been trying to get hold of her. I went to her house, knocked the door, and they said no, she don't live here. But I've spoken to her daughter, and she does live there. Anyway, Rita Bradley. This was a reference from the Evening Post at the time on the 20th and the 21st of January. Says Rita Bradley of Finsbury Terrace, Bryn Mill, which is not that far from the city centre, to the west. Yeah. She said, I saw 2 triangular objects close together with lots of white lights towards Town Hill. I can hardly believe it. Carol Batcap of Uraran Dunvant. Now, it was her husband who worked at the Alcoa plant who told us about the lights going off. Anyway, she said, I saw an object bigger than a jumbo jet over Killy, but moving too slowly to be an aircraft. It had flashing lights at the front and back. John Owens of St Catherine's Road, Baglan, saw the lights in the sky above Porthcawl. He said, what I saw was about 600 feet from the ground, huge in size, and did not have any engine noise. Not like any civil or military aircraft I know. Besides, it was only moving at about 30 miles per hour, far too slow for an aircraft. I cannot really say what it was. It was certainly phenomenal. I'll come back to him in a minute, okay? Another witness...
I just make this point about a lot of people say that they see lights in the sky, and then you get the debunkers coming on and when they're watching the video and saying, those are aircraft lights. You can tell they're aircraft lights. It's because that they've got the lights that come on at the same time each time, and they're aircraft. I've seen these plenty of times, and in fact I filmed them about a week or so ago, and I put a video up, and I had the debunkers then saying they got aircraft lights, and the aircraft lights come on. I watched this for over 15 minutes and filmed it for 15 minutes. They were only just over here, and it took 15 minutes to get over my house. I watched the next day and I filmed helicopters, small planes, and jumbo jets going over. The longest they took was 2 minutes to cover the same distance. This when they've got these flashing lights, it doesn't mean they had commercial aircraft or helicopters, or because these things mimic what we've got in the sky. They hide themselves by making us think that they are aircraft.
Yeah. Or sometimes, as John Owens said, that they weren't aircraft. They obviously weren't. Anyway,
exactly.
I'll go back to John Owens, who had the sighting from Porthcawl. I'll talk about him in a minute. But the next one referred to in this Evening Post article at the time says, Peter Trotman of Bryn Cerdyn Road, Newton, Mumbles, said he was astonished to hear the claim that the sighting was meteorites. And Mr. Kenneth Needles of Verde Road, Port Talbot, said he was also sure the UFOs were objects of some kind. Mr. Needles, who was in the RAF during the war, said, to be honest, I have no idea what the UFOs were, but they can't have been aircraft, right? He's ex-RAF, right? Now, this John Owens, Steve rang John Owens up. We managed to get his number from somewhere.
This guy contacted Sufon, did he, Emily?
No. We contacted him.
Right.
I think I went on. I managed to get his phone number from somewhere in the library or something. So Steve rang him up, and I was with Steve when he rang him, and I made notes. This John Owens didn't want to be interviewed on camera, but he told us the full story, which I've written it all up. He was at Porthcawl rugby field, the rugby club. He'd gone there early to see a game with his son, I believe. He was standing there when this object went over the rugby field at about 600 foot up, and he says there it was huge in size, did not have any engine noise, and not like any civil or military aircraft I know. Okay. Peter Trotman, the one from Newton in Mumbles, Steve managed to track him down. He's a local councillor, Peter Trotman is, and Steve wrote up a report, a statement from his. Apparently, Peter Trotman was at home in the garden in Newton, Mumbles, and his wife was with him as well. So there's two of them saw it, and interesting thing about the Kenneth Needles of Verde Road, Port Talbot. He said he was ex-RAF. He's probably no longer with us. I think Steve might have tried to find him without success. So he's probably passed away. He was in the RAF during the war, so he very old. He'd be in his 90s today. If he
was ex-RAF in '83, then he'd
83
passed by now.
Yeah, he would have been in his 60s, I reckon, at that time. So I don't know what.
But a credible witness because he's RAF and he's.
I have no idea what the UFOs were, but they can't have been aircraft. So
and this is
a good reference.
This is the area again, around quite close to a lot of other sightings.
Yeah, that's where Rita Bradley was.
But don't forget, June saw hers was just over here as well.
Yeah. But Rita Bradley said she saw us over Town Hill.
Ah, right.
So it was
over here.
There, yeah, there, that area. So she was looking that way, but
Yeah.
maybe they moved from there down to the bay.
You see where you've got the red dot there in the middle, and there's like a triangle around it. That seems to be a pretty intense area of all the sightings. That particular area seems.
Well, there's a lot of people
very
living.
intense.
There's a lot of people living there to see it as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Statistically, it would have been seen by more people. There's more people living there.
But what is that? What sort of distance are we talking about with that triangle size there? Are we talking like a mile by a mile by a mile? What sort of distance?
Sorry, what do you mean?
What sort of distances? You see the red dot, and you've got like a triangle shape with roads around it. What sort of, size is that?
A mile, yeah, mile
Wow.
square.
About a mile from also in Natalie's Mark Weymouth as well, as the crow flies.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
Peter Watkins
all
was on
around
Town
that
Hill as
area.
well.
Yeah. Peter Watkins up Town Hill.
Right, the next reference we've got is this is from our files. This is the husband of somebody who comes to our meetings regularly, and he was walking his dog in Clydach, which is a fair way up the valley from the city centre, and he looked up into the clear sky to see 3 lights, one red and the other 2 green, arranged in a triangle with a dark space between them over the Mond Nickel Works, which is a big factory which is still there now in the centre of Clydach. He did not see a body to it, but could see no stars in the space either. So that refers to, they were like 3 objects with a light on, with a space in between. There was 3 lights on the same object, and it blocked out the stars.
Black, isn't it?
That's been referred to a few times, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seemed to be motionless, but was drifting slowly towards Morriston in the southwest. The only time we got for that is early evening, so your guess is as good as mine. But there's another reference to somebody on that night who saw one object, he said. Yeah.
And that's the area that he saw is.
No, no, it's not. I don't know where you got that from. No,
Clydach.
Clydach.
Yeah. I actually know Clydach well, believe it or not.
That's it's not the Clydach you know, probably.
No, it is with the Mond. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
the
right,
Mond.
okay.
I know the
There's
pub,
another-
the Mond, well. Yeah.
All right, there's a Clydach Vale in the Rhondda, and there's a Clydach over by Abergavenny, isn't there? So the Clydach we referred to as this area here, right up the valley. That's fantastic. That is.
Yeah, that's me putting the wrong one in.
I know that. Oh, I need to sort that out. Anyway, it says there's no reference for that, is it?
It just says Forest Park.
No, that's near you, Dave, isn't it? Forest Park.
Forest Fowler?
Yeah.
No. Don't
Forest
think so,
Park's
no.
in Swansea.
Yeah,
Oh,
Forest
is it?
Fowler
Alright.
is near me. Yeah.
It's not far from
that's right.
Tesco Extra. The Tesco's Extra there now. Anyway. I was visiting my girlfriend, now wife, and was just getting out of my car when it appeared over the houses, quite low and perfectly silent. It must have been about the size of a football pitch, as someone else said, if not bigger, with dim lights underneath. I didn't actually see the back end because the acceleration on it was so fast, and again silent. I don't think anything we have can accelerate that quickly, and with no noise from a standing start. 1 minute it was there, next it was gone. Anyway, if something's come out of your article, my kids always thought I was winding them up. They don't. No, cheers. Simon.
Did you say the shape then? Or you said
Difficult
football
to read.
size field. Did he say the shape as well?
No, it just said big. Difficult to read that because he doesn't use punctuation. He says, all I can remember is that it was early evening and it was dark. The address it came from Forest Park direction over the houses at probably about 10 mile per hour. It appeared speedboat shape at first and just kept getting wider. It must have been about the height of 3 houses. Couldn't tell how long it was, as never saw the rear. It accelerated so fast in the direction of roughly Morrison Hospital.
So it was a football size field size, and it was the height of 3 houses thickness.
Yeah, and he said
Oh my
there
God.
was someone else on the street, a man with a baby, but he just grabbed the child and ran into the house, one of the houses. Yeah, I spoke to this Simon. He said he He first saw like a dark point coming over the house. It's like a speedboat, the bow of a speedboat. That's what he referred to. He just came over a house, and then he just shot away. So he was moving slowly, and then it shot away from a standing start 1 minute, and it was gone the next.
That sounds like a wedge-shaped craft.
Yeah.
If you saw a wedge-shaped craft coming to you head on.
Dim lights underneath.
I'm gonna whiz past this next map because I've put it in the wrong place. This one,
that's Porthcawl, that is.
Yeah, I got Porthcawl down
So
there. It's nowhere near Porthcawl.
Say Porthcawl.
So I just whiz past.
These are so credible, aren't they? You think people, they're going to make up "I saw a UFO," they would come out with "I saw a disc," "I saw a traditional shape object." None of these are traditional. None of these sizes are traditional sizes.
Yeah, that Simon, he came forward to us with that report. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, this map is where it is. You can see whereabouts it was.
Yeah. Oh, we've done that one, haven't we?
John Owen, yeah, the bottom one.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Now then, this is I got this from the South Wales Evening Post on the 21st of January. Okay, 2 nights later, and it was referred to again on the 27th of January, where they had a follow-up article. Now, this is the evening. William Rich and his son at home in Llandow Castle, Cowbridge. Sounds grand, but Llandow Castle was actually a block of flats. It was a big house split up into separate flats. Okay, it wasn't actually like a council block. It was like a big old house called Llandow Castle in the Vale of Glamorgan, right near Cowbridge. Bill Rich, William Rich, with his son, saw a large triangular object passing in a westerly direction towards the Bristol Channel. So it came from the direction of Cardiff. Okay. A little later, they also observed other lights which were pulsating but stationary. And William Rich, or Bill, is a member of BUFORA, British UFO Research Association. Right?
Ooh, Fora.
Yeah, BUFORA. At the time, in January 1983. Now, I managed to find in the BUFORA journal his report on this Night of the Triangles, which he didn't really go into much detail. I think all his information came from the press cuttings at the time, South Wales Evening Post and South Wales Echo. He didn't actually go out in the field talking to people.
This shows where.
But that was heading towards Bristol.
The actual castle there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was going from Cardiff to Swansea.
What time was that? Did that happen?
Evening. It just says evening because it was in the Evening Post. Okay. Also in that area, Llantwit Major, there was a rugby game going on with like 15-year-olds, and one of the coach stopped the game because this huge triangular-shaped object went over the pitch.
Oh, you're joking! And are you telling me all the players saw this, or just the coach?
Yeah, all the players, they stopped the game. Now that was in Llantwit Major.
They all saw it.
Just below where Bill Rich was living. Okay.
Llantwit Major is just around there.
Did we talk
so they
about
would have been on a floodlit pitch if they were outside and it's in the evening.
Yeah, it was dark. It was January, wasn't it? So no, we didn't talk about Cardiff last time, did we?
No.
We're coming on to that now because the South Wales Echo.
Emily, can you just go back to that one a sec? You just blown me away there. You're telling me that there would have been 2 teams of 15, 30 people. There would have probably been public family watching these young lads playing as well. So there'd have been all those watching and probably seen this as well.
Yeah.
We're talking 45, 50 odd people just at that game then that witnessed because the game was stopped.
The news article mentions the name of the coach, and I tried to track him down.
Oh, we've got to follow this up. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently he's moved to North Devon, and I'm still trying to track him.
We tried to track him down, didn't we? When we went down to Cornwall to that conference.
Yeah.
But,
he's still around, apparently. He must have been quite young then, I think. But anyway, go back to Cardiff. This is the article that was in the South Wales Echo. Carol Griffiths was travelling in a car with her husband and a doctor. They were giving the doctor a lift home. They all work with the NHS, I think. They were travelling through Llandaff and saw this huge. She did the drawing there that's in the paper, and she saw this huge object moving, covered it, huge white lights underneath. Now, I found an article written by Jenny Randalls, who interviewed Carol for the Bufora Journal.
Yeah.
And she refers to it in one of her books as well. Now, Carol says, which wasn't included in the newspaper article, that as they stopped the car and got out by Llandaff playing fields and by the tennis courts, she said, and this thing went over, and she said it was as if everything stopped. It all went quiet.
Oh,
and there were
really?
people driving past in the cars, oblivious to it, as if nobody else could see it but her and her husband. And her husband was in the car, but she got out to look, and she said everything was really quiet. And Jenny Randalls refers to this phenomenon as the Oz factor.
Yeah, we've discussed this before, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah, quite often witnesses would sort of would be in like a separate bubble, if you like, from the rest of the world. So
that's the third witness that has described this as well. So I'm one of those, obviously, that's described.
You remember last time we were talking about Natalie Bowden?
Natalie, yeah. And her family were disinterested.
Yeah.
And
she said everything was quiet. It wasn't cold. It was January.
Yeah.
It wasn't cold. She couldn't feel the cold, and it was all sort of quiet. And then when the object disappeared, she didn't see it disappear. It was all of a sudden it wasn't there anymore.
So this is three people. This is me in Newport. This is Carol in Cardiff and Natalie in Swansea, all describing basically the same experience and feeling very strange on the same night.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this object was heading. I can't read that. Was it? I got my glasses.
And I'll just mention now, I've never heard of Carol before. This is a new one on me.
All right.
And I've never met Natalie. I've never spoken to Natalie, and yet we've all got exactly the same story on this for the sound of things.
Yeah, it was. They say they encountered a giant triangular-shaped object with white lights along the border of the triangle. Some reports say it was larger than a jumbo jet and had a red light in the middle. Mother of four, Mrs. Carol Griffiths of Hale Penlan, Whitchurch, was being driven home from work at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Okay, remember that now. When she saw the object over the River Taff, close to Llandaff Rowing Club. She said today, "My husband stopped the car. We were so amazed. It looked like Concorde taking off, but it was stationary in the sky. I normally poo-poo things like that, but it had to be a UFO." Mrs. Griffiths' husband, John, who works with her at the Air Call Limited, a communications company in Cathedral Road, said he saw a similar object above Pentwyn earlier in the evening. A passenger in the car, Dr. Nrabendra Deb, which presumably sounds Indian, who practices in Caerphilly, said the object seemed fixed in the sky. I don't know what I was looking at. I have never seen anything like it before, he added. South Wales Police say they received a number of calls reporting UFOs between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. yesterday.
So South Wales Police would be Cardiff Police, would it?
South Wales and Swansea and Cardiff.
Yeah.
Two separate.
Yeah, it's the whole of Glamorgan, really.
Okay.
The first sighting reported 4 flashing lights in the sky, and within minutes, 2 detectives reported watching a silent object. That's the CID guys we just talked about. A silent object, triangular in shape, drifting west over Swansea, even though one of them said it was rectangular. Anyway, they said it was flying at 1,000 feet with 3 lights, 2 of which were pulsating. It was followed by a smaller, similar object. The RAF received 2 similar reports. Right, reference to the RAF there.
Yeah.
Again.
2
police
reports.
spokesman. This is just what the Echo knew about. Anyway, a police spokesman said the reports would be treated seriously. Quote, "At present, we have not got a clue, but inquiries will be made," he commented. All right.
So the last sort of 2 paragraphs you could put down to being Mike Choke, and because they had a call off the RAF that night, talk about what they saw.
Yeah. Now, that's in Llandaff. Now, interestingly, Llandaff Primary School Eglwys Wen Primary School in Whitchurch, which is in the same area. A lot of the children and the parents that evening saw this object because they talked about it in school the following day. The teacher got them to make a huge picture together, like a big collage of the object.
No.
And it got in the paper. And years later, they had a sort of reunion, and there was an article published in.
This is the night of the triangles. These kids all saw it and they drew it when they went to school the next day. You're kidding me, though.
Obviously they weren't at school when they saw it because it was in the evening. It was after school hours. But they were all so full of it that the teacher got them to make a big. This picture was like meters across, and they put it all on the wall. You know, remember what you used to do in primary school? All the kids used to make a big collage together by cutting out bits of paper and sticking it on.
It's what they did in Broadhaven as well.
Yeah, but in Broadhaven they were all separate pictures, weren't they?
Yeah, but the teacher got them all together and said, right, separate rooms, you do a drawings of what you saw.
Yeah, no, Eglwys Wen Primary School. Right? So I went on the local Whitchurch Facebook hub, all these little communities have little hubs. And I put a comment up saying, does anybody remember a UFO scene in 1983? And a lot of people in Eglwys Wen Primary School saw it. And I must have had about 6 people come back saying, yeah, I was one of those kids. So we've got the names of a lot of them. And it's just a matter of going down and now interviewing them.
I'm not being funny. You hear about big cases, and then there is this. And this is just, there are so many witnesses that I was unaware of, and I mean, when we're talking about 67 or something around that have come forward and actually said, yes, we did see it, and they've made a statement or they've made some comment about it. But then you've just said there's a load of kids in the school that saw it. We haven't added them to the number. There's a load of people that were at a rugby. There's another 50 or 60, there might have been or more, at the rugby field when they stopped the game.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is mind blowing.
It might just be training, as in having a training session.
Yeah,
You'd have two teams. You'd have
2 teams.
You'd have people for 2 teams.
Yeah. It's mind blowing.
This is where Carol was when she saw hers. So we moved well away from Swansea now, and we're starting to go to Cardiff.
So to give people an idea of the distance between Swansea and Cardiff, we were talking about 55 miles or something around that.
40 miles.
40 miles. Okay.
Yeah. City centre to city centre is 40 miles.
Okay. So nothing. As the crows flies, absolutely nothing.
No.
Wales is very small, so people are aware. Yeah.
This is the. Can you see that? No, this is the South Wales Evening Post article from 2 nights later
with June's drawings in.
Because on the 20th of January, it was in the Evening Post, and the Coast Guard said, what they said people saw were probably meteors. So big response to that. Meteors never, say all the UFO spotters. All right, and that's the article that mentions a lot of the people's names, some of which we've tracked down, and some of which came forward.
So this case got onto the local radio. It got into the local press. Did it make it onto the Welsh news, the BBC Welsh News, or the ITV News?
Difficult to. Well, if you remember, Roland Betts, his wife, said that they'd interrupted a news item on a program. A program had been interrupted to say that.
Well, we don't know whether that was radio or TV.
I'd say that's more like radio.
Probably radio, yeah.
And this is massive, isn't it? I mean, I am blown away.
When people come up with they've seen UFOs in the sky, they always go off and try and find, it's meteors, or it's.
This is the biggest case that has ever been in the UK. There is no 2 ways about it. Forget Rendlesham. There's no comparison. Comparison.
It's quite unheard of. This is, to be honest. Night of triangles in a lot of areas. Not many people have heard about it. So.
No.
It's quite a big thing that went on that night.
And yet, I asked Nick Pope. I said this in part 1 of this interview we did before. I asked Nick Pope if he'd even heard of this event, and he hadn't even heard of it. What the hell? And yet, we know now the RAF were informed. The MOD had the files, and he didn't even know about it.
Yeah. Can I just remembered another witness that we interviewed, a guy called Alan. I won't say his full name. He was living in, that one Simon who, in Forest Park said he was like a speedboat. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 streets away, there was another boy called Alan who was out in the street. He got his grandmother out to have a look at it. He said he saw this huge triangle going over, and he told us that his uncle saw it as well. But this will make you laugh, right? This will make you laugh. His uncle, who I believe is still with us, and I've been trying to contact this Alan again to try and get his details. So anyway, this Alan was in a place called Cadley Mill, which was not that far from Forest Park, down the hill towards Gosainen direction. And at the time, it was like a dark lane with no pavement, like a country lane.
Okay.
And as he was walking along next to the edge of the road in the dark, he thought something was coming up behind him. He thought it was a lorry. He jumped in the ditch to get out of the way. When he turned around,
it was close encounters again.
It wasn't a lorry. It was this gigantic triangle at low altitude coming up from behind it.
Oh my God!
Brilliant. Yeah. You couldn't make that up. Yeah.
And they wouldn't make it up. That's the point.
No.
The outlandish stuff is the stuff you believe in this topic. I've found. The mundane stuff is the stuff you can take with a pinch of salt. But when they're a little bit like, you wouldn't believe it knocked me off on my bike, or that's the sort of stuff you take notice of.
Yeah, wow. This is a map that Mike's put together, showing roughly the localities of some of them.
All the sightings, because there's probably I've probably got about another 20 or so to put on. I know, but they're not on the database. So.
There's one reference from Cumbraen, and another one Abercanide up by Merthyr Tydfil.
But this is just taken from the database we got, so we know we got more sightings out there. So there'll be a lot more red dots on this to show, where all the sightings.
But obviously, it's a lot more intensive in the Swansea area. That's the point here, isn't it?
Yeah, there was another guy called Craig. He was 15 at the time, doing a paper around Langland, which is near Mumbles there, just there.
Yeah.
He told us that he saw this huge triangle going over the Gowan, over the sea, that way.
Yeah.
Another witness said that they saw these 2 triangles going over the Gowan, over the sea that way. So they went over the Bristol Channel,
which went over Penland. We haven't.
Have you looked into the opposite coastline, the English Channel, the Bristol side?
Yeah.
Have you looked into reports on that side?
Mike's been talking to somebody down that way.
I was chatting to a guy because I put a post up, like saying, night the triangles, and the guy said, we were down in Ilfracombe. I used to live in Ilfracombe, and I know there were witnesses down there. One was a fisherman on the rocks, and he said a massive one went over Ilfracombe and then headed up towards Cardiff.
What time did he say that happened?
He didn't quite know, but it was pitch black. It was early evening, and there was he said there was another witness that saw it as well. He said it was in the papers. So when we went down to Cornwall, we stopped, and where did we stop? It became the B, wasn't it?
Barnstable.
We put going into the Barnstable library and looked at all the microfilm, but we couldn't find anything for that time to say that it was in the paper.
In the papers that we saw.
But he might have just got mixed up with the dates then.
Yeah, but he was adamant it was on that night, because he said the same night as, because he sort of followed the triangles, because he said pointed out straight away.
Can you imagine if this happened now with all the people with mobile phones? It'd be incredible.
And if it happened in New York or LA or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Little old South Wales got this. I mean, this has got to be the biggest. This is Phoenix Lights standard, but that was one giant craft. We sound like we've got about 20 giant craft.
Different shape sizes.
Some could be the same objects moving in the same place, seem like different people. Yeah, but some are at the same time, but in different places, doing different things. Some big, some small.
I'm blown away.
Yeah, because there is a hell of a lot of substance to this case between the CID, ex-RAF witnesses, MOD files,
A lot.
possibly the earliest depiction of a TR3B I know of, or can think
Yeah.
of. The rugby game full of witnesses, and another, well, not quite a school sighting, but a sighting by a hell of a lot of school children.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are just real people. They're engineers. They've got real jobs, etc. They're not looking for fame or fortune or to get their way onto the conference circuit. Yet they get ridiculed or may possibly even threatened, is the implication from some of these stories, for coming forward with their story.
Yeah, and the fact that some of these are they're saying that there's no sound. They should have fallen out the sky. There's no engine noise at all.
Yeah.
And these are all in different parts of Wales, and they're all giving it identical descriptions. These people have never met. None of them probably know each other. You know, one or two might have been together as friends and saw it together, so they know each other. So it may have corroborated a story between the two of them and got scrambled, got a story together. But the vast majority of these people don't even know each other.
Sufon's drawn a few together now in our meetings, and a lot of them, some of the witnesses come to our meetings every month now, and they know each other as friends now.
Like I say, that dude lived a couple of doors up from Osloin, or Osloin's dad, and yet they never knew each other. But they saw very similar things going on with their houses.
Was that the last one then, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
I take the screen share off now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know, then you've even got Mark Raworth. You know, he saw something big going over that way, and he could be seeing what Natalie and Oxford saw after.
And there's it's yourself, John, and Jim Thomas, Peter Watkins. Who else?
Oh God, it's quite
they come to our meetings now.
Oh yeah.
Phil Preble, his wife comes to the meetings.
Peter Watkins comes. Oh yeah, Natalie used to come. But quite a few.
So it's had a profound effect on people that since 1983 they've still got a huge interest in this, so much so that they'll risk ridicule by even turning up at UFO meetings and
they know they're amongst friends, because everyone has got a lot of people have got stories of what they've seen or they've been abductees, so they can talk freely and not get ridiculed.
Some people contact us. There was that guy. He was 15 at the time. He just come out of the chemists in Bryn Hyfryd, which is near Landor, and him and his mates saw these two big triangles going east to west at low altitude over the Bryn Hyfryd square. But he doesn't want his name, or he doesn't want to be interviewed. He just said, "No, I've told you what I saw." I said, "I don't want to go any further."
And I think that's the 99% of people wouldn't have phoned the police. They wouldn't have risked the ridicule at that time in 1983. They wouldn't have told their mates. They may have said, "Did you see something to the neighbour? Did you see that last night?" But that would have been the extent of it in that sort of era. So I mean, it's so impressive that so many came forward at that time.
That's typical of so many UFO witnesses. Most never get reported.
Yeah.
One, who do you report it to? Two, I don't want to report it, and they make fun of me.
We could do with this being a movie. And then I can imagine if we said there was going to be a movie about this, can you imagine how many people would suddenly come out of the woodwork and say, well, actually, I saw that as well. And you might get some pictures. You never know. I mean, there were cameras around. So
we've put stuff in the local paper about, like, for instance, that we're having a meeting to talk about the night of the triangles. Well, Simon Matthews got in touch then, didn't he?
Yeah.
He said he was sitting... Is this Simon Matthews?
He saw it in the Evening Post.
Yeah, he was sitting
on his coffee over his keyboard.
He was having his tea, and he had the Evening Post, or came up on the South Wales Online. And yeah, he spat his tea out because he said, "Oh my God, this is my sighting. They've even got a name for it." That's Simon.
Yeah, the only problem with that though is because there were other people that said it wasn't a triangle. They said they saw different shapes, so they'll be thinking it's not the same case. Oh, because they're talking about triangles. That's the only problem with giving it a name. Like, that's the only issue with that, isn't it? But it makes sense because most people did see triangular shapes. I get why you did that.
What helped a lot of people remember it? Oh yeah, it was in the Evening Post the following night. There was a picture of it. That's June Thomas's drawing of the two triangles. It's a mental thing that imprinted on people's memory. Yeah, I saw that. It was in the paper. It was a drawing of it. So many people have told us that, which is good, really, because it's definite. That date is what the sighting was then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It
It
ties
was
it
in the paper a couple of days afterwards, and you just go, okay.
So you know then that they are a
can
night of the
work it out.
Triangles witness. Not, you know, it wasn't on a different night at that time because it's so long ago. How do you remember?
Yeah.
But it was in the paper the following day. You know, that's.
But it's like the guy with the who saw it, looking down at it. That was where the Liberty Stadium is now. That area. Yeah. He came and he was like quite cagey, but he sort of like.
Yeah, he was the one that came to the our meeting that night, and
for the relief of because he's blurted it all out, sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's like going to the confessional, isn't it? When you finally give over your UFO story to somebody, because you don't want to be ridiculed. You're hoping that they're not going to smirk and start giggling. And,
Yeah, I said to him, "Can I have your name? I need contact details." He said, "No, I'm not getting. No." He said, "I'm not telling. I just came. I just told you what I saw. A bit like those two boys. That bloke who said he was with his mate. There were two boys at the time. He didn't want to go any further. He just wanted to tell us what he saw, and that's it. You know, he got the information.
But it's like getting a release for them because they've held it in for so long. They've not really told anybody. Like this guy who turned up, he never told anyone. You know, he got there, and it was a relief for him to blurt it out, get rid of it, and then once he did his bit, then he went. He didn't stay. Yeah. He just went.
We've also got Deborah Brooks.
Yeah.
This came out just by chance. We were having a sky watch down Southgate on the Gower a couple months back, and I put something up on Facebook to advertise it, and two people we didn't know came out, husband and wife, Deborah and I can't remember his name, and we were just sitting there on the bench looking at the sky, and she was talking about. I said to her, "Have you had any sightings?" She said, "Oh yeah, it was one night I was with some friends. I was only about 15. No, she didn't say the date. She didn't say the age at the time. Hang on a minute.
No,
she said, yeah, we saw this thing in Morriston, wasn't it, Plas Mal, and this big triangle went over. I went, all right, how old are you then? And she said, 15. I said, how old are you now? And she says an age. And I said,
we deduced it down to
was
what
that
it was.
1983 being? She said, yeah, what? Yeah, it was 15. It was 83. I said, what part of the year was it? Was it cold? It was pretty cold. It was in the winter, I think. And she said, did she say he was in the paper the following day or something?
I can't remember, but it was quite funny because she was talking. We were looking at each other, going, "Hang on, this sounds very familiar."
I said, "Oh my God, you're the night of the Triangles witness," and she said,
"Synchronicities, don't you love them?" Go.
She had never heard of this, and it turns out she was with a friend called Sue, who's still around, and two other friends who passed away, unfortunately. And they were hanging around, like teenagers used to do. They're all in the house on their computers now. But 1983, I was one of them, shortly before that, hanging around the streets with their mates in Plas Mal, which is or Morriston area in the valley. Yeah. And this thing went over, quiet. It was completely silent. Triangle. There was no lights on it, was there? It was dark.
No, dark.
But it blotted out the stars, she said. It was a big black triangle that was completely silent, went over them at low altitude, west to east.
So that's something else we've got to witness. We've got to.
She said
interview her properly and video it, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, marvelous. Right, guys. I think we'll wrap this up. Can you tell our listeners where they can get in contact with SUFON?
Facebook, Swansea UFO Network. It's called page. We've got a website. All the contact details are on there. www.sufon.co.uk.
Where you can also submit a sighting that you've had via Facebook or submissions on the website.
And
plus, we've also got a WhatsApp as well, so people could send stuff via WhatsApp.
It's all on the website. Yeah.
Brilliant. So, like I said earlier, we're going to be doing the Broadhaven school case soon. So get to work on that, Mike. Get your file going.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to that one. And we can keep doing the updates on this as we're going forward. We can, if we get new witnesses and you get a new statement, we can always slot it into anything we're currently doing, so we can keep people, abreast of what's going on. So, brilliant. Thank you again. And I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Surprising how long it took. Surprising how long it took. Like nearly 4 hours worth of talking about one night.
It's incredible.
Surprising, really.
Yeah, there's more to say.
Yeah.
Eglois wedding thing, I haven't written that up yet. I got more time now, so I'll get on to it. And this Eglois wedding primary school in Cardiff. This is a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
I got a photograph of the picture that they made somewhere.
Brilliant. Looking forward to seeing that next time as well. Okay, guys, so we'll call that a wrap.
We'll do a part 3.
Yeah. Well, I love it.